Planning Council. Where's the planning commission agenda? There you go, thank you. Okay. I didn't have an agenda in front of me, I apologize. Okay.
Am I supposed to not read this before the hearing starts?
We'll read it during the hearings.
Okay.
Yeah, wasn't that the recommendation? We can refer to it during the hearing, what we'll just have to do, so we're all on the same page later. Yeah, okay, I'd like to start with roll call.
Chair Watson,
Present.
Vice Chair Howe,
Present.
Commissioner Bruner. Here. Commissioner McCarthy. Here. Commissioner Smith.
Here.
We have a quorum.
So do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Approval of minutes. Are there any minutes included in this packet? Okay. You said you're correct.
I do. Let's see.
And where are the minutes?
These packets, these are just. So the minutes are on.
Is there, do I have a copy of the minutes? Just out of curiosity.
here.
Was she presented with a packet?
Okay. So these are the minutes for the meeting on May 1st, 2024. It was about the public hearing about the draft element of the comprehensive plan, transportation, parks and recreation trails and transport. And then the public hearing to consider recommendations of the board of trustees for the variance. No, that's-
Or the learning council. Okay.
And there is no applicant present. Yes, there's a teacher. So again, we're going to be hearing that tonight. So it was basically about the comprehensive plan. So did anybody have any comments on the minutes?
I had two corrections to propose. The first one is on page 5 of the packet, which is each of the minutes. Marissa's first name is misspelled. It's as Marissa, it should be Marrisa, as I think is how she spells it. And then on page 6 of the packet, hang on one second, which is we all know the page number on the, page 3 of the minutes. In the motion made by Commissioner Bruner, it needs to either say incomplete or not being complete. The way it's worded, and hang on, I lost it in my front of me. Commissioner Smith, no, let's see,
Bruner makes a motion.
Yeah.
Deny this request.
right.
Due to being.
Commissioner Bruner makes a motion, yeah, go ahead.
Incomplete.
Yeah, to just clarify that it was the motion to deny this request due to it being incomplete or not, whatever you do to make that a negative. Okay, that's all I saw.
Okay. Lynn, did you have anything to add or Bill, any changes to the minutes? Okay, nothing. Okay, thank you. So would you like to make a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the actions and presentations portion of the agenda, which is, we have two public hearings tonight. The first is a special use review of the park to allow commercial recreation use. So, I will now open the public hearing on the application submitted by the Learning Council for the property located at 138 Grand Avenue, Keone, Colorado, 81428, for a special use review of the park to allow commercial recreational use. The purpose of the hearing is to provide a public forum for all interested parties who wish to comment on these applications before the Planning Commission. The procedure for the public hearing will be as follows. Thank you. First, there will be a presentation by the staff. Second, there will be a presentation by the applicant. And after these two presentations, we will allow members of the public to speak for up to 5 minutes. All testimony must be presented at the lectern after, well, we've discussed this, after you give your name, you may write down your address at the podium for the clerks. Well, technically, you're supposed to provide your name and address at the lectern. But my concern recently has been, goes on YouTube, onto social media, goes around the world, and the video is not the property of the town, and it could possibly violate YouTube's privacy policies if you have concerns about stating your name and your address, providing your image for YouTube. So if you so choose, your name is sufficient, but please put your name and address on the written sheet there so we know who you are. You might say that you're a resident of town if you don't want to give your address, or you live outside of town. So it is that, I think we've asked our attorney about that, and it's kind of like a new frontier. So if you're comfortable with that, if you want to state your address, that's fine. Okay. So that's at the lectern. I lost my place here. Okay, so you, it's best not to repeat points made by others, but if you can't help it, so be it. It's also fine to say that you agree or disagree with a comment previously made if you don't want to elaborate. Please direct all your comments to the Planning Commission and not to the town staff or not to the applicant. After receiving public comments, we will allow the applicant and the town staff an opportunity to respond and answer any questions raised by the public comments. I will then turn the matter over to the Planning Commission, and the commissioners may ask questions of anybody who testified. We generally will not ask questions during the presentations. That's your time. Finally, I will close the public hearing, and the Planning Commission will discuss the matter and may take some kind of action. Once the public hearing has closed, no further comment from the applicant or the public will be taken. However, the planning commissioners may ask for advice from the town attorney, and public hearings are recorded for the public record. So do we have proper notification, Clerk Better? Yes, we do. Okay. Do any commissioners have any disclosures, such as conflicts of interest or any private ex parte contacts?
Nope.
No? Okay, and then I'm going to ask the town administrator to give staff presentation. We're now at staff presentation.
So SRV stands for Special Use Review. SRV 2024-03 application for special use review is outlined in section 16.440 of the Town of Dale Municipal Code of Ordinances for the parcel number 324-506-131001 The property commonly known as 138 Grand Avenue, Paonia, Colorado, 14228. The property is currently listed as C1 Core Commercial District. The current property owner, the Learning Council, TLC, is represented by Alicia Knight, Executive Director, the applicant. Since 2007, the Learning Council has operated in Paonia and has offered educational opportunities for all community members. TLC's current focus is on community building and cultivating classical arts, agriculture, and practical arts. In 2021, TLC acquired the building located at 138 Grand Avenue in Paonia. There are currently multiple uses operating within the building that are allowed by right. These uses include the ice cream corner, the commercial kitchen, administrative offices. All are listed as permitted by right under section 16370 schedule of uses, commercial industrial districts of the Paonia Municipal Code, known as PMC. In 2022, a building permit was issued for another use at 138 Grand Avenue, known colloquially as the Hearth, with a note that stated, permit may be used pending zoning approval. The TLC website states that the Hearth serves as a community gathering space and public workshop area, ice cream parlor, diversity library, bike co-op, certified commercial kitchen for community meals by donation, and more. As stated previously, most of the uses were permitted by right, but the gathering space and public workshop area on the south side of the building fits into community recreation use, which requires a special use review, SUR. The approved building permit application is included in this report as attachment A. Originally, the applicant submitted an application for variance from the PMC for parking, but after reviewing the application and permit history, the town determined that an SUR had never been completed on the property for the use of the southern portion of the building. The most appropriate use for the southern portion of the building, based on the applicant's description of the activities within it, is community recreation. The request to allow for community recreational use within the C1 district is described within section 16.370 district regulations for the C1 district. The Hearth has operated without formal zoning code compliance from town, and a formal approval from town officials was never received for the use of the Hearth as a commercial recreational use. Instead, at the assertion of the applicant's attorney, it's noted that it is that the note stamped on the drawings for building permit stating reviewed for code compliance includes a review for zoning. However, the approved building drawings and the notes for the building plan review states all work is subject to field inspections. The entire commercial kitchen is pending review, but the further mechanical drawings, no mechanical work can take place at this time. The note found in the construction remodeling document states reviewed for code compliance and has notes from the building plans reviewer and building inspector official. The note is for building code compliance and not that of zoning code. In addition, the approved building permit application lists with the signature on 5/19/2022 from the former town administrator that permit may be issued pending zoning approval. On the bottom of the permit, it also lists that zoning is a required approval and that it is listed as pending. The applicant has stated that the former town administrator made a determination that the building would be given the assembly designation. The assembly designation relates to the building code for occupancy classification and not to the PMC zoning code. The 2018 IBC Chapter 3, Section 203 gives definitions for occupancy classifications and use designation. Section 303.1 Assembly Group A states Assembly Group A occupancy includes, among others, the use of a building or structure or portion thereof for the gathering of persons for purposes such as civic, social, or religious functions, recreation, food or drink consumption, or awaiting transportation. See attachment B for the citation from the 2018 International Building Code, which was adopted as the building code for town of Paonia and PMC section 18.110A. The previous town administrator's IBC occupancy and classification of assembly is appropriate for the current occupation of the Hearth. As such, the appropriate zoning uses community recreation and requires a special use review. The applicant is requesting a use listed within table 16-3 as permitted by special review. The applicable table is, there's the spelling. The applicable table is included in this report as attachment C. PMC section 16270 C1 Core Commercial District is given the following intentions. It is the intent of the district to provide for the orderly development of those commercial and business uses, government, educational, and cultural facilities that are characteristic of downtown areas and promote comparison, shopping, and pedestrian activity in the core area. This district is not intended for businesses and commercial uses that are oriented to the automobile and require extensive ground level flooring. Procedures for securing approval of special review application. PMC section 16.440 gives the procedures that must be met in order for the planning commission to consider an SUR application. PMC section 16.440A, a pre-application conference. The applicant has held 2 pre-application conferences with the town administrator treasurer, with the most recent meeting being held on 7/19/24 at 9 a.m. The applicant was advised of the process and that there would be a condition of approval recommended to include a parking agreement with the town to ensure that required off-street parking spaces for employees, volunteers, or for any other operation, or for any operations of TLC are met by utilizing the town's public parking lot accessed off Main Avenue behind Town Hall. B, filing deadline. The applicant met the filing deadline and adequate public notice has been given by the town clerk. The application provided has met all provisions required for the special use review. C, fees. The applicant has paid for all fees associated with the application and a receipt for which is attached to their application package. D, review by the town administrator. Review has been completed by the town administrator and the staff reports evidence that it has been completed. E, action by the planning commission. Public hearing for the applicant has been scheduled with the planning commission on August 7th, 2024 at 6:09 p.m. F, action by the board of trustees. Within 30 days of the planning commission's recommendation, meeting will be scheduled with the board of trustees to consider the planning commission's recommendation and make a final determination of the merits of the application. Should the applicant be granted a special use, a resolution reflecting the decision to approve the commercial recreational use will also be provided. All special use review applications are required to include a recorded warranty deed with a legal description of the property. Delaware County Assessor's Office property card with recorded warranty deed, legal description of the property is included with this report as attachment D. PMC section 16.430 gives criteria for the site plan and supporting documents, and the relevant section of code is included with this report as attachment E. After reviewing the site plan and all relevant attachments, it is the staff's opinion that meets the requirements of PMC. Required findings needed to consider a special use review. As established in PMC section 16.450, site plan review criteria and performance standards. A, the criteria for review and performance standards are as follows. 1, compliance of the application with this code in general. After reviewing the application and holding 2 pre-application pre-meeting conferences with the applicant, town staff will limit the application to utilize a space known colloquially as a hearth to meet the conditions of the PMC. Further, the use required comprehensive building permit review and building inspection processes, all requirements of which were met by the applicant. The applicant may need to produce a certificate of occupancy or submit for final building inspections to receive. 2, the compatibility of the proposed use and site plan with the character of the surrounding area. Review of the application revealed that the building would not be expanded or enlarged outside of its existing footprint. Instead, the applicant performed a full remodel of the building and utilized the space for different uses permitted by right. Request for commercial recreational is allowed by special use review, and the applicant is completing the last step for securing the requested use. The use of space as commercial recreational fits with the character of the surrounding area, as it is well within the core commercial zoning district C1, and other similar uses are nearby. Within the same block of Grand Avenue are restaurants, shops, art galleries, and a commercial condominium type building with multiple uses as well, including personal services, shops, and a cocktail lounge. On the other block of Grand Avenue, there are additional shops, art galleries, stores, personal services, restaurants, and commercial condominiums, and a recreational park among other similar and compatible uses. 3, the desirability and need of the proposed use. The applicant has conveyed that there exists the desirability and need for the proposed use as there's a lack of commercial recreational uses within the downtown area, and that the mission of the applicant is also directly related to the use of the hearth as commercial recreation. The use of the space as commercial recreation allows the applicant to meet its goal to offer a diverse range of classes and maintain the tradition of agriculture, locally crafted goods and services, and locally sourced arts and entertainment. They continue to grow its course offerings through a variety of course workshops, ensembles, productions, and camps that attract students from out of town as well as locals. That's paraphrased. The hearth has been operating as a commercial recreation space there's been a quantifiable need and desire for the use. The town erred previously in not completing a special use review for the building permit was issued in 2022, the extensive and costly renovations that were completed on the building. 4, the potential for adverse environmental influences that might result from the proposed use. It is highly unlikely that the special use of the space is commercial recreational, but negative or adverse environmental influences. Any adverse environmental influences would be directly contradictory to the applicant's mission and goals, namely that the TLC is invested in building on the values established by the Heart and Soul Project, our rural and natural environments, a small town sense of community, a steady economy, maintaining traditions and heritage, and freedom, independence, and personal responsibility. Staff recognize that this provision is intended to consider the merits of industrial uses that may have impacts to the environment. 5, compatibility of the proposed use, site plan, with the policies and guidelines of the comprehensive plan. The town of Paneona's existing comprehensive plan from 1996 contemplated land use development. Goals and action items were established in that document. The town must contemplate those goals and actions as a requirement of consideration of the special use review as listed in PMC section 16450A5. There are 2 of 6 commercial land use development actions that apply to this application. LUD-10, improvement of physical appearance of existing commercial land uses. LUD-12, preserve and when necessary expand the downtown core. Subsection B, lights and signs shall be located in a manner that will not be distracting to adjoining properties or passing motorists. The existing lights and signs were outside of the scope of review, as they were already approved by a previous administration, and the applicant installed them based on that approval. It would be improper to consider changes now. The process which the town required for the original building permit application was received was not then recorded with strict municipal code. The lighting on the building appears to comply with town code, including provisions of the dark skies ordinance, which requires shielding and downward facing lighting. PMC section 1810-100 states that a C1 business may have a wall sign or a canopy sign not to exceed 1 square foot of building frontage with a maximum of 50 square feet. There are one sign per building except for corner buildings, which may have 2 separate signs, provided that the total area does not exceed 75 square feet. C, landscaping shall be provided in areas near public right of way and located with consideration for energy conservation. An acceptable plan must be provided for the maintenance of the required landscape areas. On page 4 of the application package, the applicant shows a drawing which includes the rear of the building and a landscape plan, including planter boxes. Other areas surrounding the buildings are the town's trees within the rights of way. Any consideration of landscaping aside from the rear of the building, rear of the building is impossible since the C1 zoning designation includes a 0 setback lot line. However, the applicant provided a landscape plan with the application. B, controlled storm drainage shall be provided so as to not damage adjoining properties. The plan must be approved by the town engineer. The applicant has not changed the footprint of the building, and the building permit was approved by the town's building official before the improvements were completed. Further, the town does not employ a town engineer outside of competitively bid projects that are being worked on for the town, but not for individual applicants for zoning or building. Instead, the town relies on the building official and his third-party plans reviewer, CODA, to review drawings and ensure that they comply with the building code, which often includes acceptable storm drainage control. E, site design and building plans shall include provisions of the need for handicapped individuals as required by the building code and other ordinances of the town. The final approved building permit was reviewed by Shane's Code for ADA compliance and was issued to the applicant on May 19, 2022. F, approved landscaping or solid fencing capable of screening adjacent properties shall be provided for commercial uses of not residential uses. This provision is inapplicable as the structure is located within C1 and is surrounded by other commercial properties and separated by a town alley from residential uses for west and rear of the property. G, commercial industrial uses shall conform to the following performance standards. 1, no dust, odor, gas, fumes, glare, or vibration shall extend beyond the lot lines. Glare pertains to the sunlight reflected from windows or other integral portions of buildings, as well as from lighting fixtures and signs. The applicant received a favorable building inspection for the commercial kitchen's range. It appears that the design and use of the building are to comply with this performance standard. 2, smoke shall not be emitted at a density greater than number 1 on the Ringleman scale. It is highly unlikely that the use as a commercial kitchen would be greater than the number 1 on the Ringleman scale, with 20% of cases started. Number 3, no particles of fly ash shall exceed 2 tenths grains per cubic foot of the flue gas at a stack temperature of 50 degrees Fahrenheit. It is highly unlikely that either the commercial kitchen hood or the fireplace within the hearth will exceed the level of fly ash particulate within this components. 4, noise. No noise shall be emitted which exceeds a maximum of 75 decibels with a maximum increase of 5 decibels permitted for a maximum of 15 minutes in 1 hour. In addition, every activity shall be conducted so that no noise produced is objectionable due to intermittence, beat frequency, or shrillness. The use requested is to allow for commercial recreational use within the building. It is unanticipated that there would be an occasion where the noise will exceed this performance standard. Number 5, water pollution. No water pollution shall be emitted by the manufacturing or other process. Requested use is for commercial recreational, it's not related to manufacturing. This provision is inapplicable. Number 6, outside storage areas that adjoin R1, R2, or R3 districts must be screened from view with screening at least 8 feet high. The screening shall be constructed of board fencing, screened metal fencing, or shrubs. There isn't any proposed outside storage that would require meeting this performance standard. Number 7, truck traffic to and from I-1 and the 2 district facilities must be restricted to truck routes. The weight of the trucks is limited to standard highway limits unless otherwise posted. Not applicable as zoning C1. However, this does not give approval for delivery trucks to disobey any posted signage or ordinance for deliveries. Number 8, industrial activity within the I-1 district will be restricted to 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. This is not applicable as the zoning is C1. The applicant's completed application package is also attached as attachment F. The difference being when you have before you as planning commissioners include their entire building plan set, what was available to the public does not include the entire building plan set, it would have had to have been redacted. Staff recommendation. Staff recommends approval of the special use review for commercial recreational. The basis of the recommendation on the information by the applicant. The application substantially conforms to the comprehensive master plan and meets or exceeds the performance standards required under PMC section 16 and 15 for special use review. There are 3 potential motions for your consideration. I will also say that we did receive 4 letters of support that have come in by email. I'll read those now. The first email came from Stasia Cannon, Dear Planning Commission and Town Administrator. I'm writing to express my strong support for the Warren Council, a dedicated and impactful organization that has been making a significant difference in our community. As a newish member, North Fork Valley community member and business owner, I've witnessed firsthand the positive outcomes of the work, and I'm truly grateful for the many services they provide to our communities. TLC not only nourishes our town with the community meals they prepare, but by providing a gathering space at the hearth for educational opportunities, support groups, health and social services, music and arts performances, and much more. I have enjoyed attending the Mindful Marbles Room as part of Jennifer Yoga classes and music performances at the hearth and hope to continue. I ask you to support this important organization by making a recommendation to the Board of Trustees to approve the special use request for the hearth. Thank you for considering this letter of support for TLC and the hearth. Should you require any further information or wish to discuss this matter further, please feel free to contact me, and she gives her email address and phone number. The next email is from Louis Hayes. Dear Planning Commission and Town Administrator, at Louis, we support the work of, this is Louis Pizzeria, we support the work of the Learning Council and have not had trouble with parking as a result of their events. The next letter of support we received is from Brian Satterwhite. Hey, it's Brian Satterwhite here, and I just wanted to write you a quick email about how I think TLC is doing a great job of being a community nonprofit. remember a time not that many years ago, when we had a ton of empty storefronts in downtown Reno. I believe they are doing a great service to our community and need our support as the issue of use comes up tomorrow meeting. Thanks again. The final letter came in just before this meeting from Molly Wheelock, principal at Studio W. Dear Stefan, Mayor Smith, and Paonia Planning Commissioners, I am unable to attend this evening's meeting regarding parking at the Hearth TLC. I'd like to show my support and voice my perspective. My office is directly adjacent to the Hearth, to the south at 136 Grand Avenue. I'm also a resident of Paonia, I won't say their address, but they live in town. I'm lucky to live so close to work that I can walk and ride my bike nearly every day. The truth, most of us have that luxury. On the odd days when I drive, I usually can park directly in front of my office or just a few spaces away, hardly any inconvenience. I'm not sure that I've ever seen a parking area behind the TLC fully occupied. The majority of their events are in the evenings, where the streets are fairly open. I certainly don't mind the extra traffic past my shop window. But perhaps we could use another bike ride out front. I fully support the mission of the Learning Council. It doesn't need to always be in alignment with my own life. It needs to know they provide a needed service to our community. I don't believe that Paonia has an imminent parking problem. At the same time, businesses and organizations and property owners do need to provide parking for their tenants, employees, and customers as much as possible. I support a parking ordinance that includes a flexible option for many properties with limited space. I'd like to see a parking fund that businesses contribute to that would go towards general transportation and parking improvements, i.e. new parking spaces if needed, better located charging stations and bike racks, continuity of pedestrian walkways, shuttle stops, or wherever future Paonians decide is a priority. I hope that the Planning Commission will move to support the continued efforts of the Learning Council and the community space they provided, while also ensuring a clear and ethical precedent for future properties and businesses. Thank you, Molly.
Okay, so that concludes the staff presentation.
It sure does.
No more staff. Okay, now I'm going to let the applicant present. If you could come to the podium. Thank you, Alicia.
Hi. Thank you for your presentation and for your recommendation. I really appreciate it. Also, thank you all and your volunteers and appreciate your service. I feel like Stefan did a great job reviewing what our application was. I don't have too much to add, though I would like to add that it is fairly infrequent when we have large events, often in consort with other big events of the community, like the Mountain Harvest Festival and Cherry Days. I believe in our application, we said that it's about 8 times a year that we have events larger than about 60 people. And so far this year, we've had 2. So I don't think this is like an ongoing problem that's going to get worse. I think that, I feel good about the use that we are doing with the space and our work in the community, and also feel really good about working with you all. And definitely wanted to say that if there are questions or issues that come out for folks on this commission or in general in the town, we're very approachable. You can always come and talk to us with your concerns. And also that we at the Learning Council love the town of Paonia and want to be a part of things here. We've tried really hard since we got the building in 2021 to be in compliance with all of the things that the town asks for and try and stay ahead of the game. We enjoy working with the town staff as well as the police department, and it's really important to us to maintain good relations with all of you. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer. Also, I really wanted to thank and acknowledge all of our friends and supporters who came out today. Thank you so much. One other thing was that I was able to get permission from Robert Justman for if there were events that we had that had overflow parking, that we could use as additional parking at on First Street, 201 First Street. So this is a letter that he sent in to y'all. Any potential.
At this point, I'm going to allow the members of the public to speak to up to 5 minutes. So, I guess, Alicia, you can be seated if you're comfortable, and, are we going to be able to question the applicant here? So the commissioners can't ask any questions of the applicant, correct?
Sure. If you look further down on the script, Madam Chair, it's after public comment.
After the public comment, okay. Great, public will be allowed to speak for up to 5 minutes. All testimony must be presented at the lecture. So here we are. So I now open the public comment portion of the hearing. How many people are actually interested in speaking? Okay, we have quite a few. Okay, so let's begin with Chris.
Hi, I'm Jess Durban Ackerman. I live at 225 Highway 133. I'm the Executive Director of the North Fork Valley Creative Coalition, and I'm here to support approving this permit for Park and Learning Council. They are an incredibly important community space and organization in Paonia, and we as an organization do not have a space, so we often utilize theirs. And I love that they offer that and allow other organizations and community groups to gather there. And I'm very supportive of the town and the rest of the community supporting them and being able to share that space with everyone. Thank you so much. Okay.
My name is John Maddox, and I live at 134 Main Avenue.
He's speaking it, so, but it would be good to sign it too, just for the clerk.
I'll just
Go back and do it.
sign here.
Yeah, just write your name for the clerk when she's writing minutes down. We've been a little inconsistent with that, so.
And being a neighbor, I completely support and appreciate all of the things the Learning Council does. They've been great stewards of everything in Paonia. Been involved with them for 10 years. And as a new neighbor of theirs, completely encourage and welcome anybody willing to use my parking at Main Avenue. I don't see parking issues and completely support everything they do. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jeff Schwartz. And I, as a fellow business member of the business community in the Paonia area, I think it's important for the Planning Commission to do your best to support these maybe out of the box projects, because we're trying to do a sustainable development in this community. And I think a project like this can lend itself towards creative solutions that we can't even see it. So I really hope that you could do everything in your power to support this really important project in this really important community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amy Porter. I recently moved out to Bowie. But I am a local psychotherapist here in town and a former educator in the school system over at the Linden. And I work with children and families and adults, and we are so blessed to have the Learning Council. I'm gonna try, because I always do. It's just such encouraging comfort to know, like, I can't tell you how often clients are looking at to me for resources. And the Learning Council is just full of a vast array of diverse, encouraging supporting resources for so many different kinds of people that walk in my door. I have such a variety of clients that I work with looking for so many different kinds of things, and that's who they are. They offer mamas support groups, they offer support groups for all ages or things around agriculture. You want to call it hippy dippy, right? Like, it's a vast array. And so transportation isn't an issue. I don't have to refer them to Delta or Grand Junction. It's right here. And that's often such a great barrier for people in my office, of feeling a part of their community and a sense of belonging and nourishment. And that's exactly what the Learning Council offers. So I'm so honored to be here and support of them. And I really appreciate your approval of this from the staff. I guess I was supposed to be directed towards you. I heard you say it earlier. And so thank you. I really hope that this can pass. That's it.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna finish my address.
So typically, you raise your hand and you're acknowledged. I have seen people moving to the front to kind of get in line with their seats. That's kind of a nice idea, actually, but it looks like you were interested in it.
It's Rebecca Corona, and I own Grapevine Gallery with 16 local artists. We have so many visitors, and not unlike all the rest of the businesses on Grand Avenue and around Grand Avenue, I often send people to the Learning Council, whether guests that are visiting or locals, just to grab some ice cream or to look at the artwork that they have supported local artists in presenting in their building. It's several of my artists have done work in there, and I'm just beaming with excitement that they allow artists to put their work inside there and create the building space. And it's so beautiful. So I say yes to look at other artists' work and other galleries, and people come back and say, thank you so much. We've never seen anything. The hallway, so beautiful, or the hearth, the tile work, or the nice new chandeliers that they've had made by local artists. So I'm in total support of these people, what they're doing. They're bringing so much to the community, not only to ourselves, the local people, but also to our visitors. I can't tell you, I tell them to go over and enjoy their food at the Arbol Market. If they're there visiting on a Tuesday, I'd like go over and get their food. It's incredible. So hopefully we can find a solution to letting them continue. Thank you so much.
And have a show of hands again of everybody that still wants to speak. Okay, so actually what I have to have you do is swear to tell the truth first before you speak. And I don't know if you just want to stand up now and can we have a mass swearing in, or do we have to do individuals? What's recommended?
That's a good one for.
Okay, Clay, do you have an opinion on that? For a testimony at the public hearing?
As to the swearing?
Yes, the swearing in, do they all have to do it individually, or can we have a mass swearing in of everybody who wants to testify?
Sure. I think it's cleaner to do one at a time if you think it's
We'll do that.
necessary, and it's quick.
Okay, so why don't you state your name and write it down on the sheet there? Or-
My name is Michael Cooper. I swear to tell the truth. I'm the executive artistic director of the Paradise Theater. We collaborate frequently with the Learning Council on a variety of live productions, monthly films, children's arts programs, senior outreach, and educational workshops. And together we share and serve many of the same audiences. As the cultural anchor and artistic heartbeat of Paonia, so many of the community events that we produce would not be possible without the participation of the Learning Council. I believe that they are a vital organization to our community and that they fit the character of this
town. My name is Kathy Price, and I serve Tell the Truth. I am a business owner on Grand and refinery economics moon. My address is 224 Grand Avenue. And I just want to get up here and say that I have not been negatively impacted at all by any events that the Learning Council has put on. I've definitely participated in a lot of them. I'm really grateful for the Learning Council. And I also have used the HERT as a space to throw a fundraiser for one of our local schools. And so I just want to put forth my support of the Learning Council and also say, like, as a neighbor and as a business who needs to have space for all our customers to come in, I've not seen an issue there. Thank you.
More speakers? Does anybody else want anything to say? Okay.
Put my name down for a few things at once. So, my name's Asa Hoffman. I swear to tell the truth. I am the treasurer for the Learning Council, and I just thought it might be nice to bring some perspective as you're thinking about the impact of TLC on our community. In 2023, just looking at this high level, we had 67 contractors and 22 employees, and we paid out $391,000 to them. These are local. We also spent $105,000 with local companies, totaling about $500,000 that we put into the local community in 2023. We also, that was our year of construction. We were, of course, major busy. It was a mess in there, but we managed to still offer over 100 classes, and we provided educational experiences to over 2,000 members of our community. 21 of those classes were agricultural, and we served 500 community members with those agricultural classes, and those were done in collaboration with many of our local farmers. We connected our farmers and our community and our farms together. I can't go with all of our programs, but we'd be here a while with all of the impact that we do. I also want to mention that we also reached over 600 kids in Delta County through our Arts for All craft zone. We employed 13 teachers and 15 youth artists doing that. But maybe one of the most impressive things, I actually was typing this up, I literally got choked up. We had 28 Fargo markets in 2023, 12 TLC kitchen pop-up community dinners, and we served 5,400 meals in this town in Paonia in 2023, all on the gift model. 80% of the food that we purchased was locally sourced, and it was an investment of $40,000 that went back into our local agricultural economy. And through these programs, that food program, when we say it's the gifting model, every single resident of this town can have local food grown by local farmers because we will accept any amount of money that they have, and we will feed them. So we are literally serving every single man of our kids too. TLC is definitely a commercial and recreational facility, but we are also an important friend and ally to this community in so many ways. Whether we are leaning into the economic challenges of farmers and finding ways to support them through food we serve, the market we curate for our community, or by participating in the snack program to ensure everyone has access to local food, or by helping children to expand their creativity through our arts program. TLC has and will continue to lean in to support the individuals, the families, the farmers, the businesses, and all of the locals. And we will also continue to invest in our local economy while doing it, because that's our mission in action. So, if you want to know more, I really encourage you to look at our website.
We have a yearly review, you can click on it, it will tell you all the dollars you spent, we can look into more of the details, and we can plan to spend more and continue to expand and support this community in every way that we possibly can. Thank you for your consideration.
Commenter?
Yeah. My name is Gloria. My husband David and I are working artists.
Hold on, Lori.
Swear to tell the truth. Thank you. Sorry, writing and speaking at the same time. My husband David and I are both self-employed working artists. We created the hand-carved marble hearth for the Hearth Building and 300 handmade ceramic tiles. And the Learning Council paid us a very nice living wage for that project. We've done a lot of other projects for them. And because of those earnings, we've been able to be self-employed artists living and working in Paonia while building a house, employing other contractors and local builders, electricians, plumbers, freelance contractors, while doing a lot of that work ourselves. Very recently, we hosted an art heist at the Learning Council, and we were able to donate essentially 160 original oil paintings that we put on the walls for donation. So anyone could take them and could choose how much money they wanted to donate. We had almost $200,000 of original art on the walls. And the place was packed for the first hour of the evening. The art flew off the walls. We raised almost $20,000 that night, and we donated half of it to the Learning Council. And so my husband and I are very, very grateful that this place exists because it's enabled us to make a home and a living here and to support other local businesses. And we hope that it will continue indefinitely into the future.
Hi, my name is Anastasia. And I'm an employee at the Learning Council, and I swear to tell the truth. I just came up to state very clearly that I go to the Learning Council several times a week, many different times of the day, morning, noon, night. I have never had trouble finding a parking spot. Even on our big event nights, 2 big events that I can think of in the past few months, the farthest that I had to walk was literally a 2-minute walk. I don't see that parking is an issue. And I really hope that you keep supporting the efforts that the Learning Council has created for the community and wants to continue to.
Is there any other speakers would like to speak? Oh, yeah.
Hi. I'll put my address here. I tell the truth as I know it. I think that you guys should recommend that they get their commercial recreational use. And I don't think it's a question of like what they're doing for the community, but what they're not doing. There's kids art classes, there's music, there's ag. It's amazing. And from what this application seems like they've done everything they need to do and they're ready to move forward. And the only problem it seems is parking, which is hilarious because it was historically the town library. And if Google's true, the Blue Sage is 100, occupancy 100. They have maybe 4 spaces out front. There's no spaces out back. Paradise Theater is 200. There's maybe 2 spaces out back, 4 or 5 in front. And the way that the Learning Council sits right now, they actually have a lot of parking spaces to offer. And I have not experienced that there is a parking problem. So if that's the only holdup, I think we should just move forward because it's a good idea.
Any other speakers? Okay, go ahead.
I am Sarah Brody, and I swear to tell the truth.
I am a mother and a farmer and have lived in the Peonia area for over 5 years now. And what's amazing about the Learning Council is that it provides many resources that support all of us. For a lot of people, it's the heart of Peonia. And what's so amazing is that now there's a Hearth on Grand Avenue, and they host so many different services and classes. For example, they offer the farmers market, and during the winter time, they have winter markets that provide an opportunity for our farmers in the valley to have the ability to generate income during the winter, which is not a very easy thing to do for farmers. It also has excellent resources for young mothers, me included. For example, the Mindful Mamas group has been an amazing resource for young mothers in our valley. Both programs are really well attended because they are conveniently located in the Hearth, which is located right in downtown Peonia. Arriving on Grand Avenue was not an easy feat for this small nonprofit, but it has opened the doors for the wider community as a safe place for us to gather, learn, eat, and celebrate all the Valley has to offer. I recently joined as a board member of the Learning Council, and I have been so impressed by the amount of opportunities the Hearth has provided to enrich the lives of all of us. Having TLC occupy a physical space in town is beneficial for the character of our town, and with such amazingly diverse offerings, it absolutely fits the definition of commercial and recreational use. We thank you so much for your recommendation for approval, and we hope that you put all of these voices from the community into your consideration for your decision. Thank you so much.
Are there any more commenters that would like to speak? Or testify, actually? Okay, why don't you go ahead? Sir. No, I thought I saw you raise your hand. Okay. I know we're brushing flies off up here. Okay, so it looks like we've concluded the public comment portion of the hearing. We're moving on to the applicant staff rebuttal. Does the applicant wish to offer further comment?
No, thank you.
No, okay. Well, Alicia, why don't you just come up here and say that you told the truth, actually.
I swear I told the truth.
Any further comments from the staff? No? Okay, so I now close the public comment portion of the public hearing. Okay. So the next topic here is comment about hearing record. Before we turn to commissioner questions and deliberations, I want to state that the documents included as part of the record for this public hearing include all application materials submitted by the applicant, all materials included in the packets, and all written referral and public comments received regarding the application, the notice of the hearings, and the town's ordinances. Does anyone have any objection to the inclusion of these items in the record? I see none at this time, so I'm going to turn this over to the trustees for questions. Who would like to begin?
This is questions that we can ask Alicia or each other. There's this comments.
Yeah, I guess it's Alicia. If you'd like to come to the podium for applicant question or for trustee questions, Alicia, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay, who would like to begin? Paige?
I just have a question. I just wanted to get more information on the use of the town parking lot. It sounds like most of the time that you have overflow parking with your employees and people there during the day is mostly during the day that you can use what parking you have there. The potential overflow that would be using the town parking lot, would that be more in the evenings when so many other people wouldn't be in that lot? Like the people that work in this building?
Yes, the events that we have that are traditionally larger events tend to happen after 5 and on the weekends.
I just want to ask a question here of the staff. Is parking, really a parking concern any part of this hearing, actually? It sounds like it kind of was addressed by the staff, but I'm not sure what are the requirements of the code for downtown parking for public assemblies.
Yeah, so, the code does require in a special use review a contemplation of parking or any additional parking that special use may generate, and that's why it was contemplated within the staff report. What we've done in the past with other different types of reviews, we've allowed for an agreement to be made between the applicant and the town and the public parking lot behind town hall be utilized for any of the parking requirements that they currently can't meet. There were some changes to our code of ordinances that removed certain sections, such as a parking fund, and made it very cumbersome for any sort of business to meet their parking requirements. Because if they want to park off street, the code says that they also have to own that property. And that makes it really difficult and cumbersome for an applicant or a business owner to meet some of those parking requirements. That's why it was contemplated in our staff report. I don't have the authority to just exempt code. They have to present it as.
I have another question. How about handicap parking? Is there any type of requirement under ADA for businesses to provide handicap parking?
There is a requirement under ADA, but all it would be more in the building code. I don't know what that is, other than if all of this has been reviewed by Shubes Coda before a building permit was issued. So I'm assuming they took all of that into account for the issue.
We do have a spot in the back that is accessible and for
Okay, great, thank you. Bill?
Question for Administrator Wen. What is the number where the code is applied for parking spaces in this case?
I don't know. I didn't do that calculation. I'd have to do more research.
So, Alyssa, your support is overwhelming and the work you do is fantastic. And the problem is that we all take an oath to uphold the law. And the law says there's this requirement for parking, but we all know what difficult it's been in Paonia to have the laws fairly enforced and all that. And this parking thing is currently under review. And so my question to you is, if it comes about that the finalization of the parking thing turns into a fund that businesses that are changing their usage pay into, would you be willing to have it part of the agreement here that you would participate in that at whatever level is codified?
I would agree, so long as it's, like affordable and fair.
Right, yeah, hopefully if we fix the code, that it will be affordable, and fair.
Sure.
That would be good. So, since you're kind of right on the cusp, if that would be agreeable to you, I think that would satisfy me as far as all this goes.
So you were saying that if in between now and then a new code comes in, between now and the end of the month, or if retroactively, we'll still pitch in, but the people who got their thing permitted months ago won't have to pitch in?
That's kind of what I'm saying.
Well, I would want it to be fair and just, whatever it is.
Right.
But we are happy to participate in making the town accessible for everybody.
Right, so my concern is that using the town parking lot or using Mr. Chestnut's parking lot doesn't actually satisfy the law as written. And so that's my question to you. Would you participate in a rewrite in some time
The
period?
law?
Yes.
The rewrite of the law? I don't think I'm qualified to participate in a rewrite of the law.
No. If it came about that there was a fund established or a requirement for, in this case, you've got a certain number of parking spaces that we haven't calculated. I don't know how many they would be, but if the code was rewritten so that there was a fee per parking space.
I understand if that was happening and if that was something that was fair and just, I think that we would feel good about participating. If it was something where we were being called out as a retroactive person who received the parking variance and other people who received parking variances here were not being called out for that, I would have some questions.
There have been some recent variances that have been given, so it's like, when do you?
Isn't
there
When does the line get drawn? with these
It's exactly
items?
it. Where do you draw the line?
And whatever it takes to make the town accessible and fair, we want to participate in it.
Stefan?
Mr. Chair, so I did get some clarification. So section 16.610, all street parking spaces required. Table 16-5 for commercial uses for places of public assembly, which the building code said this was assembly space, says 1 space for every 4 seats or benches in the principal place of assembly. This is bench capacity is determined as 1 seat per 30 inches. So I guess what this would contemplate is whatever the fire capacity would be, would say that there would need to be 1 space for every 4 seats based on the capacity.
So the capacity of the whole building is probably quite a bit.
Specifically for that use.
Okay.
There could be
That's more
potential,
than I think.
including a bike rack for 1 space, 2. I think I've seen things like that in the code. I'm not quite sure how it would apply to this, but I guess that's kind of hard. Yeah, so it's hard to tell how many parking spaces would be needed and how often things are, since it's kind of organic at this time, it sounds. You're not meeting every night. It's not like a movie theater, but if things get really heavy, then there could be potential conflicts, but go ahead, Lynn.
I think just looking historically at what's happened in the past already, there've been the winter farmers markets, there've been quite a few events, and there really hasn't been a parking issue. So I think taking that into consideration and knowing that in the future, we're gonna be looking at possibly some other options in terms of parking and businesses, and we really don't impact economically these important businesses based on parking. And it seems it's, I hear you, Bill, we have this law, but we also, it's like, what's really happening? And there doesn't seem to be an issue with parking in my mind.
I'm happy to continue moving forward, working with the town. If it seems like it's becoming a problem in the future, I'm happy to revisit and talk about solutions. I don't think it's a problem right now. I know that they did a little assessment in July with the police. They didn't think it was a problem.
If I could just add, I think what we have is really bad code. Because in the way in which Trust Administrator Windsor alluded to, that parking only has the definition places of public assembly such as churches, auditoriums, meeting rooms, funeral homes, 1 space for every 4 seats or benches, which sounds very churchy, funeral homey. And but your change of use is commercial recreational, including pool halls, bowling alleys, skating rinks, golf courses. So, we kind of have this dilemma of mixed things. So what I would like to kind of suggest is the way the staff recommendation that with a condition, the applicant enter into an agreement with the town to use the public parking lot behind town hall. I wonder if we could, this is a little ad hoc, but because we have 2 private folks offering parking, it's a little, I don't understand where these places are. and when? And is it, and I don't know if it's appropriate. I mean, the town can't really go into an agreement with a private property owner, I would not assume. But I don't know if there's some deference given with overflow parking, we go to those places and no, we're kind of in a bad spot because I don't know how you would have one space for 4 seats in the learning council. Anyway, Stefan.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm the chair.
Sorry.
Okay, Stefan.
Through the chair, so, the recommended motion has included the parking lot at Town Hall, but it could be amended to say something like, or a combination of the parking lot behind Town Hall and other private businesses that the council wishes to. Something to that effect. Then you're not placing a restriction that has to be these 2 businesses. It can be anyone that they get into.
I do want to say, I think we've already directed, well, Blue Sage and then also the cocktail bar to parking behind Town Hall. For their, what happens when everybody starts having events on the same night? But I mean, I know, I don't want to say we're thinking too far ahead because I think parking is always going to be an issue, especially as the businesses become more popular. Let's say people just drive, and if they're driving in from out of town, they've got cars. They're not going to walk. So this is going to be a continuing issue. I don't know what kind of complaints will come out of it, what time, but hopefully the town can look at maybe creating more parking on Main with diagonal parking instead of parallel parking. There's some things that the town is really gonna need to do to just look at public parking. And this is kind of a problem all over with the car culture. And people are gonna have to bear with it unless we wanna pave a lot over, and find a lot of empty space to make into, and you can park at the town sewer pump property, actually, the old sewer pump property. That's another parking spot that we recently identified, so. Yeah, the electric charging lot, that's another town parking lot, across from the Flying Fort. So, the senior center is it's probably a public parking.
And Main Street, like you were saying, there's a
Yeah.
lot of there.
If we made that diagonal, it would add a lot of, it's a very wide street. Anyway, but that's not probably being contemplated tonight, but, so are the commissioners, I don't know if you have any more parking issues you'd like to bring up, or are there any other questions about criteria that you have at this point, satisfying criteria for the special review of this, for the use at this location? So we're not really granting a parking variance, are we, at this point? It's not really a variance, it's just like recognizing that the reality. Yeah, it's the use of the property, and technically, I suppose you're supposed to have the parking solved, but I think sounds like there's this universal, a universal recognition that they're not only with you, but with everyone else, except for Don's Market. Okay, where are we here?
Which is also a great proximity to us for parking. So there's a lot of parking.
Okay, and so any other questions or comments? Peter, did you have something to say? Nah, nothing?
This is the comment portion.
Okay.
We have recently passed a variance for parking for a business. I believe that several business owners got up and expressed the need to have more liveliness on the streets, more things happening. I think this falls right in line with that as well. Obviously, it has tremendous public support.
Okay, Samira?
I apologize for interrupting. Did you close the comment section in the hearing to go into board deliberations?
I believe I did. I kind of was reading the script at that point.
Like, just double check.
I think I did. Yeah. Okay,
I would also add that by having the bike co-op, they're also contributing to basically the parking problem.
yeah, putting maybe a creative bike rack. would
We
be
have
kind
two
of-
already.
Okay, great.
So, and we can have more bike racks. for sure.
Great, okay, great, so, and no more, I see that there are no more comments from the board, okay. I will now close the public hearing and turn the matter over to the planning commission for consideration on this matter. As far as this, the use of the park. Board deliberations,
I'd like to make a motion.
okay,
I move to recommend approval of SRB 2024-04 because it does not adversely affect the public health, safety, and welfare of the existing core commercial area. That the rezoning substantially conforms to the comprehensive master plan and that the proposed use meets the review criteria and performance standards as required.
Second the motion.
Stefan,
Yeah, for clarification, the application before you tonight is 2024-03. 2024-04 is for the next public hearing.
okay, 2024-03.
I would like to amend that motion, but I'm not quite sure how to do it. You want, what's the proper?
This is motion, I'll second.
Motion in a second.
You can amend the motion for a second, just like you would.
Okay, primarily because I'd like to complete the rest of the text that was associated with this, which does reference the parking agreement.
Yeah, so there's there were some sample motions here that were given, and so I want to complete.
Right. I'd like to add, I believe that. I was afraid that it was
I know,
the shorter one. Okay, so I'd like to amend the motion to complete, to add that the applicant enter in an agreement with the town to use the public parking lot and other potential parking lots. To use the public parking lot behind town hall and consider other potential parking for any required off-street parking for its volunteer staff or operations, and also receive a favorable determination from the board of trustees.
Is there a second?
Second.
Would it be cleaner just to like withdraw, if you read the wrong way, are you happy with the first part, or would you like to?
There is a motion and a second, and that amended motion was also seconded.
Okay, who seconded the amendment? Bill, okay.
Did you have that written down there? Commissioner.
I was reading off of the content, but I did add or other parking opportunities. I got
Private.
something,
parking
private parking, yeah, I added that in.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Of the amended? Are we voting on the
We're
first one
doing
as
the
well?
amendment first, right? Okay,
And I seconded to approve it as was recommended.
yeah, okay.
Are we voting on that?
Well, it kind of started with the recommended motion, but it got amended. So we are voting on the amendment, which was, it's very briefly,
That the applicant enter in an agreement with the town to use public parking lot behind town hall and other potential parking opportunities for any required off-street parking for its volunteer staff or operations, and also receive a favorable determination from the board of trustees. That was my amendment.
All right, are we going to discuss that?
would you like to?
I would like to.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I think we've listened to a lot of testimony and think there's been a resounding consensus that there is not a parking problem. So I really don't support making an amendment to this, I support passing it as is.
Bill?
The code is clear, this doesn't meet the code. I think the Beige's amendment is a reasonable compromise.
Do you have anything to add there? No, okay.
I agree.
And I feel like because of all the parking issues, we have to acknowledge it and address it, in my opinion.
Which parking issues?
Well, people coming to the board may be asking for.
That we have things in our code that we need to make it clear that parking is a consideration.
So not because of parking issues, but because of what's in the code.
Yes.
Okay, but do you,
Oh, because I guess we have to satisfy the criteria in our code when we're in these public hearings. So if parking is one of the criteria, we have to, you know, make an attempt to like at least address it instead of just saying, no, code doesn't apply anymore. That was my understanding. I don't know if you have a better way of phrasing that, but.
The other thing I'd like to add is that I think it's important that we have some record of how many people are going to be using the town's public parking lot back here for the record, so we know just how much are we actually doing with this single lot. That I think it's important we have concrete information that we can look at, so because the question came up about Old Sage and the cocktail lounge. I just think it's important to have it in the public record, that we are offering up it again, and with the idea that perhaps we can venture into other parking areas for the future.
Great, so we have a motion, amendment with a second, and we have a little discussion there. And so at this point, would we want to have a roll call vote? Roll call vote on that. Okay. And then, okay, Bill? Does Samara do the vote? Yeah, thank you, because we have to vote too.
Chair Watson,
I.
Vice Chair Howe,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrne,
Aye.
Commissioner McCarthy,
aye.
and Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimous.
Okay, so now let's go back to the main motion. And we can, that which Commissioner Howell made, and yeah, the main motion. This was the amendment. The amendment.
Right.
Right down. To vote on that,
No, they're identical. The language is identical between both, just the number was different.
Do we want to repeat what that motion was, just for clarity? Or are you? Yeah, we made an amendment, we just added to it, right?
Right, we added to this,
So,
so because we haven't adopted the first portion of the recommended motion, we haven't a recommended approval of this special use review or special use change.
Just read that out too. Yes.
Chair Watson, as a point of clarification, we're voting on the main motion now that it has been amended.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So we're voting on your.
I'm gonna read this.
Okay.
I move to recommend approval of SRB 2024-03 because it does not adversely affect the public health, safety, and welfare of the existing core commercial area, that the rezoning substantially conforms to the comprehensive master plan, proposed use meets the review criteria and the performance standards as required. And then am I leaving her amendment out as I read this?
No, you're just stopping where you made the motion.
That's where it was.
Okay, great. Okay, any more discussion on that? we're okay, we've added to it, and we're okay with the amendment. So all those in favor, well, Samara, we'll take a roll call vote again. We had a second, right?
Same order, Chair Watson,
I.
Vice Chair Howard,
Aye.
Commissioner Bruner. Aye. Commissioner McCarthy. Aye. And Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you all so much. Really appreciate the time.
Okay, let's reassemble some papers here.
Oh, okay. Here's our.
It's loud out there.
Is that, yeah, that's not good. Oh, that's not good.
Okay, so, on to the next hearing. Oh, we did. I will now open the public hearing on the application submitted by Lori Hunter for the property located at 325 Grand Avenue, Paonia, Colorado, 81428, for a special use review to allow dwelling units as part of a business use. The purpose of the hearing is to provide a public forum for all interested parties who wish to comment on these applications before the Planning Commission. The procedure for the public hearing will be as follows. First, there will be a presentation by the staff. Second, there will be a presentation by the applicant. And after these two presentations, we will allow members of the public to speak up for up to 5 minutes. All testimony must be presented at the lectern. After you give your name and swear, and I swear you in, you can give your address, but if you prefer to write it down along with your name at the podium, that's sufficient. Although it would be nice to know if you live in town or out of town. Please do not repeat points made by others. You can say that you agree or disagree with comments previously made. And please direct all your comments to the Planning Commission, not to the town board, not to the town staff or applicant. After receiving public comments, we will allow the applicant and town staff an opportunity to respond and answer any questions raised by public comments. I will then turn the matter over to the Planning Commission, and the commissioners may ask questions of anyone who testified. We generally will not ask questions during the presentations. Finally, I will close the public hearing, and the Planning Commission will discuss the matter and may take some kind of action. Once the hearing has been closed, no further comment from the applicant or public will be taken. However, the commissioners may ask for advice from the town attorney. Public hearings are recorded for public record. I'm going to ask the clerk first, do we have proper notification of the hearing? Yes, we do. Thank you. Do any commissioners have any disclosures or any conflicts of interest, any ex parte contacts? Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll open it up to the staff presentation at this point. Would the town administrator please give the staff presentation?
Yeah, this one will be a little more concise. The order of operations for this happened in the correct order. So the SRB 2024-04 application for special use review is outlined in section 16440 of the Town of Paonia Municipal Code of Ordinances, the parcel number 324-506-114-016. The property commonly known as 325 Grand Avenue, Paonia, Colorado, 842. Property is currently listed as C1 or commercial district. Current property owner, 325 Grand Avenue LLC, is represented by Lori Hunter, who is also a registered agent, the applicant. In its current form, the LLC was formed on 5/27/2022. The property was previously rezoned from R3 higher density residential to C1 core commercial district. Current use of the property for the past several years has been as a commercial business known as Paonia United Brewing, but is no longer active. The current property owner has requested that the use be changed to allow for lodging, which is considered in section 16370 as dwellings as part of the business use and requires a special use review for C1. The request is to allow for dwelling units as part of the business use for the C1 district as described in section 16370 district regulations for the C1 district. See attachment A for the property record cord from the Delta County Assessor's Office. The applicant is requesting a use listed within table 16.3 as permitted by special review. The applicable table is included in this report as attachment B. PMC section 16270 C1 core commercial district is given the following intentions. It is the intent of the district to provide for the orderly development of those commercial and business uses, government, educational, and cultural facilities that are characteristic of downtown areas, and promote comparison shopping and pedestrian activity in the core area. The district is not intended for businesses and commercial uses that are oriented to the automobile or require extensive ground level floor area. The applicant's application states that the reason for the special review variance is a change of use to lodging, the allowable use of C1 zones with special review. The application further states that new building structures will be constructed to include back fence, parking space, and alley. Additional information contained in the application include that the anticipated traffic flow and volume will be 2 to 4 persons in the residence, 2 weeks per month on average, and then there will be noise reduction for the prior units and no additional lighting of pollutants. Procedures for securing approval for special review application, section 16440 gives the procedures that must be met in order for the planning commission to consider an SUR application. PMC 16, section 16440 has criteria. A, pre-application conference. The applicant has participated in one pre-application conference with the town administrator treasurer on June 20th, 2024. The applicant was advised of the process. B, filing deadline. The applicant met the filing deadline and adequate public notice has been given by the town clerk. The application provided has met all the provisions required for site use review. C, fees. The applicant has paid for all fees associated with the application and a receipt for which is attached to the application package. D, review by the town administrator. A review has been completed by the town administrator and the staff report is evidence that it's been completed. E, action by the planning commission. The public hearing for the applicant has been scheduled for the planning commission on August 7th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. F, action by the board of trustees. Within 30 days of the planning commission's recommendation, a meeting will be scheduled with the board of trustees to consider the planning commission's recommendation and make a final determination on the merits of the application. Should the applicant be granted the special use, a resolution reflecting the decision to approve the commercial recreational use, that was a carryover from the previous, to approve the dwelling units as part of the business use will also be provided. All special use review applications are required to include a recorded warranty deed with a legal description of the property. The Delta County Assessor's Office showing that a recorded warranty deed is on file, so including this report is attachment C. A legal description of the property is found on the property record card from the Delta County Assessor's Office, attachment A. PMC section 16430 gives criteria for the site plan and supporting documents, and the relevant section of code is included with this report as attachment D. After reviewing the site plan and all relevant attachments, it is the staff's opinion that it meets the codes of PMC. Required findings need to consider a special use review. As established in PMC section 16450, site plan review criteria and performance standards. A, the criteria for review and performance standards are as follows. 1, compliance of the application with the code in general. After reviewing the application and holding a pre-application pre-meeting conference with the applicant, town staff believe that the application to utilize the property for dwellings business use meets the conditions of the PMC. The compatibility of the proposed use and site plan with the character of the surrounding area. Review of the application revealed that the building would not be expanded or enlarged outside of its existing footprint, but fences would be installed in the rear of the property along the alleyway. The surrounding properties for 325 Grand Avenue are predominantly residential, with a few commercial uses nearby, including a funeral home, an attorney office, a hotel and bed and breakfast, and a flower shop. The proposed use as a dwelling use as part of a business use fits into the character of the existing and surrounding neighborhood as other similar uses are found nearby. 3, the desirability and need for the proposed use. The applicant has conveyed that there exists a desirability and need for the proposed use as there's a lack of commercially available lodging units throughout town. The property is zoned C1, and an acceptable use includes dwelling units as part of the business use. It would stand to reason the code identified the desirability and need for such uses and allows for it upon successfully completing a special use review. 4, the potential for adverse environmental influences that might result from the proposed use. It is highly unlikely that the special use of the space as dwelling units as part of the business use will have negative or adverse environmental influences. The existing light fixtures appear to be low voltage and compatible or easily adjusted to be compatible with dark skies ordinance of the town. The proposed use is less intense than that of a bar restaurant, which has been the current historical use of the property for several years. 5, compatibility of the proposed use and site plan with the policies and guidelines of the comprehensive plan. The town of Paonia's existing comprehensive plan from 1996 contemplated land use and development. Goals and action items were established by that document. The town must contemplate these goals and actions as a requirement of consideration of the special use review as listed in PMC section 16-450A5. There are 2 of 6 commercial land use development actions that apply to this application. LUD-10, improve the physical appearance of existing commercial land uses. LUD-12, preserve when necessary and expand the downtown core. B, subsection B, lights and signs shall be located in a manner that will not be distracting to adjoining properties or passing motorists. The existing lights and signs were outside of the scope of review as they were already approved by previous administration, and the applicant installed them based on that approval. It would be improper to consider the changes now. The existing fixtures appear to be compatible or easily adjusted to comply with the town's dark sky ordinance. It should also be noted that the application also has stated that it has removed the previous Paonia United building site. C, landscaping shall be provided in areas near public right-of-way and located with consideration for energy conservation. An acceptable plan must be provided for the maintenance of the required landscape areas. The applicant included a site plan with landscaping areas in site plan number 3 within their application. The signage for the previous use will be removed and a fence will be installed in the rear of the property. The applicant will submit a fence review application should this special use review be granted for the rear of the property. No major changes to the existing landscape in the property is being considered with this application except for the inclusion of a fence on the rear of the property. D, control of storm drainage shall be provided so as to not damage adjoining properties. Plan must be approved by the town engineer. The applicant has not changed the footprint of the building. The previous building permits were approved by the town's building official before the improvements were completed. Further, the town does not employ a town engineer outside of competitively bid projects that are being worked on for the town. Any individual applications for zoning a building would need to go through the plan review process and the town's third party. The town relies on the building official and its third-party plans reviewer, Shrews Coda, to review drawings and ensure that they comply with building code, which often includes acceptable storm drainage control. Should the special use review be granted, the property owner would still need to go through the building permit application process. E, site design and building plan shall include provisions for the needs of handicapped individuals as required by the building code or other ordinances. The property owner shall be responsible for complying with all building and town code. Should the special use review be approved, and the applicant moves forward with the building permit application. F, approved landscaping or solid fencing capable of screening adjacent properties shall be provided for commercial uses and not residential uses. The applicant has addressed this concern with a screening proposal in their application. The applicant must submit a fence review application before any fencing is installed along the property. G, commercial and industrial uses shall conform to the following performance standards. 1, no dust, odor, gas, fumes, glare, or vibration shall extend beyond the lot lines. Glare pertains to sunlight reflected from windows or other integral portions of buildings, as well as from lighting fixtures and signs. The applicant does not propose any commercial hoods or major changes to the building that would create a burden to neighboring properties. 2, smoke shall not be emitted at a density greater than number 1 on the Ringleman scale. It's highly unlikely that the use as dwelling units as part of a business use would be greater than number 1 on the Ringleman scale, 20% of the smoke. Number 3, no particles of fly ash shall exceed 0.2 grains per cubic foot of the flue gas at a stack temperature of 50 degrees Fahrenheit It is highly unlikely that the proposed use of dwelling units as part of a business use will exceed the level of fly ash particulate within this performance standard. Number 4, noise. No noise shall be admitted which exceeds a maximum of 75 decibels with a maximum increase of 5 decibels permitted for a maximum of 15 minutes in any 1 hour. In addition, every activity shall be conducted so that no noise produced is objectionable due to intermittence, speed frequency, or shrillness. The use requested is to allow for dwelling units as a part of a business use, which is a less intense use of the property than its current use as a restaurant bar. It is unanticipated that there will be an occasion where the noise will exceed the performance standard. Number 5, water pollution. No water pollution shall be emitted by the manufacturer or processor. The requested uses for dwelling units as part of a business use is not related to manufacturing. Number 6, outside storage areas that adjoin R1, R2, or R3 districts must be screened from view with screening at least 2 feet high. The screening shall be constructed with board fencing, screening metal fencing, or shrubs. There isn't any proposed outside storage that will require meetings before a standard. The applicant has proposed new fencing along the rear of the property that would require an additional fence review application. Number 7, truck traffic to and from I-1 and I-2 district facilities must be restricted to truck routes. The weight of the trucks is limited to standard highway limits unless otherwise posted. Not applicable as the zoning is C1. However, this does not give approval for delivery trucks to disobey any posted signage or ordinance for deliveries. Number 8, industrial activity within the I-1 district will be restricted to 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. Not applicable as the zoning is C1. Staff recommends approval of the special use review for dwelling, that's titled units, not unites, as a part of a business use and bases their recommendation on the information given by the applicant. The application substantially conforms to the comprehensive master plan and meets or exceeds the performance standards required under PMC section 16.450 for special use review. There are also 3 potential motions for your consideration.
Okay, this will give, that's all the staff reports that we have. Okay, great. Applicant presentation is next. Will the applicant or the applicant's representative please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record and take the oath. Do you swear to tell the truth in this matter?
I absolutely do.
Thank you.
My name is Lori Hunter and my address is 41391 Omega Road. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, Ruben. Thank you, Sarah, for having me. And thanks for the chance to tell you my story. So I do have a story. I bought the pub, and it's really hard to not call it the pub. I bought the church in June of 2022. I wanted to move some investment money I had in a different community to Paonia because I believe in this place and I wanted to be a part of the downtown and watch it grow. I did my due diligence. I looked at the books of the tenant, the pub. All looked good. I bought a building with a 3-year lease. And it was that 3-year lease that made it even possible for me to make the numbers work. And they barely work. I paid too much for that building, but it's so darn cute. Just like the worst thing to do when you're investing in real estate, but let my emotions go. So I bought the building with this 3-year lease. And I did look at the books and I also had a verbal assurance that the pub wasn't going anywhere. The church is the pub is the church. We all love it. We didn't want it to move. So a few months later, I get news that the business sold. And we all know it sold to the fellows who own Chrysalis. And it makes sense that having 2 different locations was too expensive, and they needed to co-locate. So they had financial reasons to get out of my lease. And so here I sit with a commercial building, no tenant, and every month I'm basically losing money. I did put a sign up for rent for several weeks back in late winter, early spring. I advertised in the Shopper, and I even put it in the High Country News because we know everybody that reads the High Country News loves Paonia. And I thought somebody out there might have a small business dream that they wanted to come Paonia and rent a church.
So I got two queries. One person who could pay $500 a month for a business in that place. That's less than I spend every month to own it. Another person could pay slightly more. So I started thinking I need to look at other uses. And so I did go to all the paperwork, and I read so much of the town ordinances and everything. And lodging was an allowable use. And so I do ask that the use be approved, and that is what I hate because it's such a bad word right now, it's short-term rental. So I would like to use the business space as a business of short-term rental. So I have 4 main points that I want to make. First is just to re-emphasize what Stefan said. It is an allowable use. It's not zoned residential. It is an allowable use under a special use review. I have some extra handouts that Samara said I could give you guys. Some background. So what I did was I looked at other short-term rental regulations in towns around the western slope to see how short-term rentals are regulated, especially for C1 zones. So I'd like to just walk you through. If you look first at Carbondale, on the first page, you see that number 3, no further licenses will be issued to non-owner occupied properties located outside of the HCC zones district. The HCZ is the historic core. They want short terms there because they want people there. They want tourists. They want them to go to their businesses. Aspen, I know that we don't want to be Aspen, but I just look for any smaller town in the region. In Aspen, if you look at the note at the bottom of page 1, there is no limit to the number of short-term rental permits in these zone districts. C1 is one of those. So the point being they're treated much differently. If you go to the next page, UREG. So short-term rentals are permitted in UREG's R2, C1, and C2 zone districts. So C1 being the red part in the map at the bottom of the page. If you go to the next one, even in Telluride, if you start at the top of the flow chart for Telluride, how many nights will you rent your property? How many nights will you rent your property? I'm sorry, I'm getting lost. 29 nights or fewer on a rental, so that's what describes the short term. What zone is it in? Non-residential zone. Does it have an on-site lobby? No. How many nights do you intend to rent it? 30 cumulative or more. And that property would basically get what's called a classic license. And if you turn it to the next page, that's a town license that is available for all units in the non-residential zone. And it has no aggregate calendar year nightly rental limitations. The other zones have limitations. Then if you go to Salida, you can see that the historic downtown, which is C2, actually has the most short-term rental licenses. And the C1 corridor, I don't believe has any restrictions. Just two more, I think. Summit County, so same thing, the parts of the community that are sort of central business districts don't have limits on the number of licenses there too. And then even in Steamboat, if you look at Steamboat's map, zone A is this little green part. And again, that's the downtown area and there's an attack. So the idea, the main message being that C1s are treated differently in other places in terms of these licenses. I didn't find anything for Eagle, I didn't find anything for Gunnison, I didn't find anything for Cedar Edge, so I'm sorry if I missed it. As additional background, because it's taxed, because it's a commercial property, I pay commercial property tax, which if you don't, for that little building is almost $5,000 a year. Because it's zone commercial. So that's my first point, is that it is zone commercial and this is an allowable use with special review. So thank you for offering me the chance to ask for it. The second point is, as Stefan also said, it's a less intensive use. I was gonna make it funny and say I've got parking based on the last conversation. It's not an issue. Think about the parking I would need relative to the pub. So a lot less parking pressure for sure. And I would put parking in the back. There's plenty of room now that there are tables back there. And I have encountered some of the neighbors who have said they've noticed a big difference. I mean, it is sad. It's sad that it's not the pub anymore. I'm sad it's not the pub anymore, not just because I own the building, but because I loved the pub. And yeah, I know it's up there. It just doesn't feel the same. But there were picnic tables in the back. There was a food truck. There was music. So it definitely impacted the neighbors, even though they were to shut down at 9 o'clock. So they definitely noticed it's quieter, and I would be a quiet use. I'm the kind of business owner that would also vet people that would rent there before. I wouldn't have used Airbnb before. I wouldn't be one of those people that just lets folks grab a date without being vetted by the owner, because that building is too precious. It's historic. The third point I'll make is that the concern with short-term rentals is predominantly about taking housing off the market, right? And this is not taking housing off the market. This isn't housing. So it doesn't have that kind of impact. So that's my third point. And the fourth point is I would just love to do something fabulous with that building. In your packet for this meeting, you have a picture of one of my dreams, which would be to loft it and just make it a really, really lovely space that could draw people here. I'd love to develop relationships with wineries and businesses, and Airbnb allows for local experiences for renters too. So to partner with some of these businesses to bring people to town, I just would love to do that. So those are my 4 points. Well, 5, I told you the sad situation of how I got here, but that it's already a commercial building. It's a less intensive use. It doesn't have that concern with pulling housing off the market. And I would do fabulous things with it. So thank you very much. I feel embarrassed that I don't have an army of people.
It's never a popularity contest.
Yeah. Everybody got up and laughed, and I'm like, oh man, I'm that boring.
They have children.
And I totally respect that. It's all good. So thank you guys.
Okay, so thank you for your presentation. I will now open the public comment portion of the public hearing. So you can sit down.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So are there any commenters that would like to speak? Okay, Charles. You can state your name and swear that you will tell the truth in this matter.
My name is Charles Stewart, and I swear to tell the truth in regard to this matter. I just want to say a couple things. Lodging is much less of an impact than the pub. The pub had a pretty significant impact on surrounding properties. Luckily, across the street, a little bit down the road, it wasn't too bad for us, but for adjoining properties, it was a big problem a lot of the time. I think some of the adjacent properties probably had a period of time where had a pretty significant loss in value because the pub was basically right next to them. Basically, if you look from 3rd to 4th, there's a few properties close to 3rd that are commercial, but the bulk of the properties between 3rd and 4th are all R3. And basically, you've had a situation where the businesses have left. State Farm Insurance has left. Mr. Merritt closed down his office. I'm retiring. I closed down my office. It's a situation where essentially that block is becoming residential. And to have lodging there is definitely an improvement over having the pub there. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other people who would like to comment?
Hello, my name is David McClellan, and I swear to tell the truth. This here. Resident of Paonia, I live directly across the street from the old pub. And I do share some of the sentiments regarding the change at the block. There's less traffic. I'm a big fan of the pub. I enjoyed all that, so, but that's irrelevant. I don't know how much I'm allowed to, or ask questions for feedback versus comment. There's a lot I don't know about this. I just got a letter that said the resident or the building across the street was it's going to be a land use change. So I came up here and I'm hearing for the first time the intention to create a short-term rental. My question that came to my head, because knowing that the facility is not ready for anyone to move, there's no kitchen, there's no sort of full bathroom, any of that. Are the short-term rental requirements for residents the same as a long-term rental, or are there less requirements? You don't have to have a full kitchen or a full bath if it's short-term. I don't know, but the point that I'm trying to end up at is that I do live across the street. I own a triplex. I have 2 other rentals. The last thing I would want to do, and all of my neighbors want to do, is turn the residences into short-term rentals that are already long-term rentals or full-time residences. And so that's not something I'm going to do. When I hear that the residence or the old club is going to be turned into a residence, I would hope that the option 1 would be a full-time residence. Obviously, it's like a 400 square foot building, so I don't know how realistic that is. But I'm not against the short term. I don't even know what the town's view on short-term rentals is, but my only comment would be I'm all for more residences, more places to stay downtown, but hope it would be long-term because that's what we're all looking for around here. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Do we have any other commenters?
I just want to support Betty because she was really put out when the pub looked out. So that was really hard for her. And I think that what she's asking for is really something that is doable in town. And like everything that else has said, this she allows more parking, and I think it'll be great for the community. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you.
Parking is an issue.
Are there any other people that would like to speak? Are we? Okay, so we're on to applicant and staff rebuttal, which is, does the applicant wish to offer further comment? Okay, go ahead, thank you.
I just want to say thank you. I say thank you to Charles and Renee and David for speaking. Really appreciate it. I agree with you about the long term.
You have to address.
Okay, I agree with David over there about the long term. But I really do want to make the distinguish, to distinguish that I'm not taking housing off the market. And I would actually have to request a zoning change in order to do long-term residential. It's a commercial property. So I would have to be doing a different kind of request. I also think, as related to Renee's point, and David's point too, sorry, I can't look at you guys. It's 500 square feet. It's perfect for someone to stay for a few nights while they explore Paonia. I don't think it's great for long-term residents. It's a pretty small space. So it's just really feels set up. And I do have, David, I want to show you my visionary drawings. I'm so excited about it, but kitchen in the corner, bedroom up top, it will be a big investment to make that conversion. And the only way I could really make that investment if I were able to engage in a use that would allow for some more money generation, really, to pay myself back. So I think that's what I wanted to say. I wanted to say thank you to all of them, I think it makes, just given the size and the location, a lot of sense for a short term. And I agree that, you know, converting long-term housing into short-term housing is a real challenge, and I've seen it unfold in so many cities, but that's not what I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from town staff? Okay, Stefan?
And so perhaps I was a little confused on short-term rental, but I do want to add a few definitions that we need to hear. So the special use review is for dwelling units as part of the business use. The definition of dwelling unit by section 16(1)(100) definitions means one room or rooms connected together constituting a separate independent housekeeping establishment for owner occupancy, rental or lease on a monthly or longer basis. The dwelling unit shall be physically separated from any other rooms or dwelling units that may be in the same structure and served by no more than one gas meter or electric meter and one water meter and sewer tap. We don't have any existing code for short-term rentals. There's nothing there. But yet on that same token, section 16(370) schedule of uses also includes something for motels, hotels, lodging facilities, and rooming homes, or boarding or rooming house. And those definitions are found in section 16(1)(100). A boarding or rooming house means a building other than a hotel, cafe, or restaurant where for compensation, lodging and or meals are provided for 3 or more boarders and or roomers exclusive of the occupant's family. In such facilities, the length of stay is normally 30 days or more. The definition for bed and breakfast establishment means a facility of residential character, which provides sleeping accommodations for hire for 2 weeks or less on a day-to-day basis, with 1 or more meals per day included and a manager residing on the premises. Add those definitions.
Will that be all from the staff at this point?
It is.
Okay, I will now close the public comment portion of the public hearing. So, comment about the hearing. Before we turn to commissioner questions and deliberations, I want to state that the documents included as part of the record for this public hearing include all application materials submitted by the applicant, all materials included in the packet, all written referral and public comments received regarding the application, the notice of hearings, the town's ordinances. Does anyone have any objection to the inclusion of these items, M&Ms, these items, items into the record?
I do not.
No. Okay, thank you. So we're on to questions from trustees. Who would like to begin?
Should I come up?
Yeah, I guess you could. We're not really clear in our script, but it looks like the trustees can ask questions at this point of both the staff and the applicant. Who would like to begin? Okay, Lynn?
I don't actually have a question. I think you answered, things very well. I wanted to make a comment. This is a really interesting document. And
the short-term rental.
Yeah. You did, yeah. And what's really interesting is, the fact that it is already a zone commercial, and to really focus on, we don't want to use the term, let's call it lodging, in the downtown core or in the commercial core, because it's an issue for all of us, taking housing out of the market. And I think this is very helpful. It's been very helpful.
I went out looking for, I'm sorry, second.
Stefan, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I would really caution you that through this document, it isn't our code, it's a combination of other communities' codes, and it really should not go into your deliberation on this application. It's good to have for future discussions, But as this quasi judicial hearing goes, we really shouldn't base any decision off of other communities. We have to provide code.
Okay, thank you. Do I have any other comments or questions from commissioners? Paige?
I have a question for Stefan. So how does this comport with our water moratorium? This appears to be a dwelling unit that wasn't there before the moratorium went into effect.
Yeah, it's not, if I may, through the chair, it's not a new tap. They have water on that, existing on that location. It actually, they get a bill. So.
I still do.
Yeah, still get a bill. Might have minimal usage, but she still receives a bill. So, there is, it shouldn't affect the water moratorium.
Okay. Bill?
So how does what you're doing differ from a hotel or a motel?
Because it doesn't have a lobby. That's, I mean, I was reading the definitions, it doesn't have a lobby and it's not multi-rooms. And it's not a bed and breakfast because nobody would be attracted to Paonia by my cooking, I can promise. No, that's why I put lodging. If you wanted me to feed the breakfast, I would.
It seems like providing a meal could be pretty simple.
Yeah.
You don't even have to cook it.
You're right, you know what? Or even like, can you imagine I wonder if that would count? Like a fabulous bread, cheese, cracker moment with, Western culture cheese and fabulous Victoria wine and put that out for the afternoon?
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Stefan.
While I don't look for ways to actually screw up code, I do know that if you provided breakfast materials, everything in a refrigerator to be made in the morning, it could be considered a meal.
But doesn't it say that the owner has to live on premises, so.
One of the definitions does.
Oh, okay.
Not for bed and breakfast.
For bed and breakfast. In our.
Well,
Anyway.
I'm talking way out of turn, I'm very sorry.
Okay. So, I'm sorry. Peter.
So, just some questions. So it sounds like at the crux of this, you're saying it's just the numbers are not working as a commercial space. Is that correct? So since that's at the crux of this, so what is it that you paid for the building?
I paid $299.
And what was the commercial rent you were receiving?
The commercial, so it was a triple net lease, which is how I could manage it. So they were actually paying $1,200, but they were also paying the insurance and property taxes, because that's what a triple net is. And that was, I didn't know at the time because I had a 3-year contract and I looked at the books and everything looked fine. But there's no way that the two people that did reach out, they couldn't even get close to that. That's.
You're saying at 1,200. So that's what the space was offered commercially.
I bought it.
No, I'm saying that recently the lease.
I didn't put a dollar amount on it. I wanted to see who would show up with interest to rent it first, because I thought if I put a dollar amount on it, I wasn't gonna get anybody. So I wanted to hear who might be.
What dollar amount would you have put on it?
To make it work for me, 1,200 barely made it work for me.
Is there?
Does it really, I'm kind of
Yeah,
wondering.
at the crux of this is that it's not, doesn't make financial sense to have this as a commercial building. So I think it's relevant, the cost that was paid for it, because that's what it was, how much the rent was, and how much that was planned to be rented as.
I'd like to ask our attorney if you're requesting such personal information.
Is that part of the
Hold on a second,
criteria?
Hold on a second. I'm requesting the information that's pertinent to what the request is, which is, we're being told that it doesn't make financial sense. I can't make a judgment on that if I don't know the number.
But is that part of land use criteria is the question? I mean, there are criteria that we're bound to stick with that are described by our code and our comprehensive plan.
If we're making a variance moving something from a commercial.
It's a special review. We have this, I'll just explain, there's this schedule of uses, residential uses in our zoning code. It's 16-3-
I misspoke. We're changing the use of the building. Yes.
Yes, but it's an allowed use in our code. I mean, it's kind of very close to being an allowed use in our code. It's a residential is part of a business use. We just didn't, short-term rentals really weren't anything that was contemplated when our code, when our comprehensive plan was last written in the late 90s. So this is.
I get that everyone gets uncomfortable when we talk numbers, but I think that since it's at the crux of this, it's important.
Where's our attorney?
I'd like to ask the attorney if it's appropriate, I'm sorry, Pete.
What is appropriate?
To ask this person so much detailed financial information. I'm just not sure that's our role. Sorry.
The 299.
Evening all.
Hi, sorry.
So in the process of an administrative hearing, the question becomes really whether you believe that the probative value of the information you're seeking outweighs any exclusions or risks to the contrary. And just kind of for an example, I'm trying to find it here, give me a sec. Basically, relevant evidence is evidence that possesses probative value, which is commonly accepted by reasonable, prudent persons in the conduct of their affairs. In this case, we're talking, I mean, it's going to be up to the board to determine that personal financial information beyond that, which is necessary to make a determination, is probably, you're going to have to determine the relevance and the risk of that. It's the same reason that even though there's a rule that says you have to disclose information, for a core request, for example, there are exclusions, including personal identifiable information, certain personnel records. In this case, you're just going to have to make a judgment call as to whether you believe that the financial information you're seeking carries more probative value than it does the other person's right to keep that information private.
Okay, thank you.
The sale price is public record. You could go to the assessor's office and that.
So you're not really uncomfortable with the line?
No, I mean, I feel silly because I paid too much for it. So, and I'm not a good investor. So, I wanted to move this other investment to Paonia. And honestly, the pub was the building for sale at the time that I could afford. I do think I paid too much for the building and it barely made sense for me, but I could make it make sense if I calculate my return on investment barely at $1,200. It was not a fabulous investment. And if I can only rent that commercial space to, I can't say anything about the people who reached out to me for $500 or $600 a month. That's why I went looking for a different use. Is that it?
Peter, I'm sorry.
It does. I do have some other, I do have a question regarding dwelling units. So I think it sounds like we're talking about possibly two different things. I've heard the word lodging being used. We are not talking about lodging today, correct? And we're talking about a dwelling unit for, wording right. A dwelling unit is part of the business use. Okay. And the definition of a dwelling unit is something that gets rent, definitely as you read. And I want to point out and ask for clarification from the town attorney that it says here, a dwelling unit is something that gets rented out for 1 month or longer. So it doesn't sound like you're prepared to rent this out for 1 month or longer. So does that, it seems like we have a conflict here.
So I don't know what.
That's a question for the attorney. So this is for a dwelling unit for business, a dwelling unit And by definition, a dwelling unit is for 1 month or longer rent. So would a short-term rental violate?
Yeah, that comes down to something I'd have to research in your code insofar that you have a short-term rental section of your code that contemplates, short-term rental licenses as separate and distinct from a business license, which I'm guessing is the case based on that definition. Typically 30-day or longer considered long-term rentals and most likely stay within that residential framework as far as as far as residential properties go. The state of Colorado has recognized that a home can remain a residential unit even if it's being used as a business that's recognized as a business at like a municipal or county level, meaning that the state's only still going to tax it as a residential unit, even if it's being used as a short-term rental, and a local and the local municipality or county is counting it as a business. And so don't go towards state taxes on it, but insofar that local code states that a short-term rental requires a business license, then that might be considered within the town code of a commercial use versus a residential use, because commercial use then is subjected to under the same local law more scrutiny as far as safety, et cetera, goes. So I'd have to do the research on the Paonia's code specifically, because short-term rental ordinances are often very nuanced to local municipalities and counties.
My question was really, if we're calling this a dwelling unit as part of a business use, doesn't the definition of a dwelling unit is defined in our code.
Mm-hmm.
And it does say that it has to be rented out for 30 days or longer. So how do we square that with short-term rental?
Are you able to tell me what the short-term rental code defines?
I guess my question is, why have we defined a dwelling unit as being 30 days or more as a rental? And then why are we disregarding that?
I think that's a great question. I'd have to know more about any short-term rental ordinances that you guys have.
I actually have a question. So we have long-term rentals in this town, and they're all considered residential. Nobody's paying commercial property taxes for long-term rentals, and long-term rentals are 30 days or more. So if you have a business use, that's a residential rental that's under 30. I mean, so there's this really ambiguity and area of silence, but it's really kind of interesting to think that, are we going to require commercial uses, all long-term rentals to be considered commercial, and their property taxes would just explode?
I don't understand.
No, property taxes, that's what I'm saying. Your short-term and long-term has nothing to do with property tax, but that often gets conflated. My point.
Use.
Yeah. My point is that if the code is silent on it, that is, that might be a problem. That's why typically towns regulate short-term rental. Anything under 30 days is typically regulated by and through either a business license or a separate short-term rental license on top of the business license that come with terms and conditions of the owner, because they're bringing in somebody and acting as a lodging unit basically, which is why you probably have that definition, which the commissioner is pointing out, which is a good point.
But if we were to pass this would be a dwelling unit. And in our code, it says a dwelling unit must be rented for 30 days or longer. Am I misunderstanding something here?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Okay, Bill?
So, be a little bit of the devil's advocate here. We've been told, like, for example, talking about the definition of single family housing, or a single family house or use comes with it in the definition for 30 days or more. And what we've been told by our legal counsel in the past is that putting restriction, criteria like that in the definition is improper. Okay, and I see Mr. Wen shaking his head over it. And so when I've tried to argue that short-term rentals should be disallowed because they don't meet that definition, then my concern has been brushed aside. And so I'm going to turn it around here and say that this 30-day criteria and the definition of this dwelling unit, by the same token, would be brushed aside. And I don't know if, as a dwelling unit, if it didn't have that 30-day clause in there, if it was a dwelling unit as part of the business use, I don't know that the business, I mean, that the business is renting the property.
It doesn't matter.
I think that's, I'm trying to get to yes for your request.
I see, and I also see where there's gray area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, if the problem is we have bad code,
Everything else.
you know, and you got to try to draw the line somewhere, but, you know, I think that, and let's ask the attorney, is that a reasonable interpretation here? That the 30-day criteria and the definition is something that we can work around?
There's a lot there. I do think your assertions are very reasonable, and they make sense to me because, again, I think we're conflating issues. When you start talking about the first point you made, Commissioner Brunner, is that if you have, you know, you can't define basically a zoning issue based on use, and so, you know, a residential or a single family residential is typically more to do with the zoning and what type of building it is versus what type of use it is. You could have a single family residential, for example, that has, you know, a different that's rented. This rooms are rented individually to people. That doesn't necessarily make it a multifamily dwelling. So you can't really take the use and start mixing and matching zoning and uses. And so I do agree with what you're stating, which is you're stating it's residential, but then you're assigning a use to that residential factor, which I do. Again, I agree. I think that's conflictory in nature, and if there's nothing in your code that starts talking about otherwise the rules for short-term rentals, I do think that might be an issue.
We don't have any rules for short-term rentals right now.
Right, which again, to Commissioner Brunner's point, like, then why does it say a dwelling unit has to be used for 30 days or longer? My thought is that the person, you know, my thought is that that person intended, or the legislature at that time intended to preclude short-term rentals in residential properties, but insofar that it doesn't specifically state that, I can only, you know, speculate. And so I kind of agree with both commissioners that it does seem like a conflict, but I think in the face of conflict, you have some discretion in making your decision.
Oh, Bill?
Yeah, so I do want to make the distinction that I'm not reading it, so I could be wrong here, but I think the 30-day appears in a couple of places. And it appears, I think, in the definition of the R1 single family definition, as that it's used for more than 30 days. And honestly, my argument is that that's not that bad a place to have that. Might be better somewhere else, but I think that works. But this is the definition of a dwelling unit. And I think that a definition of a time frame on a dwelling unit is odd unless we had, I don't think it's right.
I'd just like to point out that the place that it does say the 30 days is under the dwelling unit definition, not the dwelling unit, single family or multiple families, but under the dwelling unit definition. Okay. It's the only place that it shows up actually.
So the question is, I remember hearing that the definitions, we shouldn't be looking to the definitions to create the laws. It's their definitions. Is that, don't you remember hearing something like that?
And Bill mentioned it too.
Yeah, okay, just.
Says
It's like.
It's in the code, yeah.
Yeah, it's in the code.
It is the one.
Okay.
When I first submitted the special review, I actually requested a special review for consideration as lodging.
Which we don't have.
Oh,
In that, we don't have, I mean, it said hotels, motels, and lodging.
That's not definition.
Is that why it got changed?
So here's my concern. So we do have short-term rental regulation like as a objective for the town. The crux of your request is because it's not making financial sense. And yet now you're talking about investing and turning this into an Airbnb, which means you're going to have even more financial outlays. But are you prepared to, you may not get a permit in the future.
Well, there's lots of steps, and this is the first step, right? So if I get this step, then I'll take the next steps. But yes, I would be willing to make that kind of investment because I do believe I could recoup it. I'm not a great businesswoman, you can tell. But I do think that would be the way that I could best make use of that property in terms of return on investment. And I would do well by it. I mean,
So there is, and I missed it. There is a special use review for motels, hotels, and lodging facilities, and in parentheses, it says, including room houses and bed and breakfasts. But our code does not have a definition of a lodging facility. And so there's that ambiguity in the code where, going through this quasi judicial process, I guess you could make a determination. However, whatever is decided tonight, whether or not you recommend approval or denial, if you do recommend approval to the Board of Trustees, I would add that you add a condition that the applicant meets any further criteria for short-term rentals that may be passed in the future by future ordinances. Including receiving a license.
Well, on the last case we had, agreeing to future laws didn't go anyplace. I just want to point that out. In my mind, there's maybe it's a point that should be incorporated in the short-term rental regulations is I don't think do we have a minimum square footage on a primary dwelling unit?
I believe it's 650 square feet. I believe it's 650 square.
Right, so this is too small to get a building permit to become a home without significant additions. If we have a lodging classification with slightly with a short definition, I see a difference between taking housing off, actual housing out of the market and turning it into short-term rental. I think there's an issue there. When you've got a building that doesn't meet the square footage requirement for an actual house, it's vacant at the moment. Is it zone C1? Is it that one little red strip down at the end of the block?
It was spot zone.
Huh?
It was spot zone.
It's
by the
definitely
brewery.
spot zone. I'm afraid that we're on the verge of almost making this one of those properties that we've zoned it to where it can't be used. And I don't think that's where we want to go either. I think if we have a definition of lodging and it can be justified under, I think that works for me.
So you don't want to turn it into a restaurant?
Well, it is kind of
Can you imagine? You know how cozy it was there in the pub. Can you imagine a full commercial kitchen?
I'm looking for the things that are permitted.
Everybody would have to sit outside.
It is kind of interesting that we can overlook all the parking laws and the parking concerns so it's, I mean, I don't know, we're in a really tough position here.
So yeah, can I just,
Yeah, go ahead.
parking is for cars. Dwelling units are for people. So it's like making exceptions about cars versus, I would just put to the commission that people and their housing is much more important than how far you have to walk when you park.
But this was a church before, it was never a residence. And it was a church, I remember it being a church when I moved here, and it was turned into a bar. And why does the church have to become a house? I know we have housing shortage, but it was never meant to be a house, and now it's in a commercial zone, so it's meant for commerce. It's kind of turned into commerce, is what it's turned into. And short-term rentals are commerce at this point in time. So that's, and I know, I don't have this map for the original comprehensive plan that was passed in 1996, but it did identify this area as the commercial core where they would expand in this direction. So this is not expanding into residential.
I think it's it.
Yeah, it's really hard to read because the colors and stuff. And I will admit there was some spot zoning over there, but this was never a residential property. It was always meant as another use, so it keeps commerce downtown. Then,
I think the biggest thing here is it doesn't fit square footage, a residential definition. So, to try to put it into that residential concept, I agree with Bill.
Bill?
To my mind, this actually helps with the issue of short-term rentals subtracting from the housing supply, because this isn't part of the housing supply. And by making it available as a place, a commercial opportunity, which we need, that doesn't, it actually draws short-term rental activity out of the housing market. It's an alternative to short-term rentals in the housing inventory. Is the way I see it. I see it's an actual plus in terms of short-term.
Again, I go back to, without like any clarification on, we're calling this a dwelling unit. We've got in our code, it says dwelling units need to be 30 days or longer. This is specifically for less than that. Right. If this was for that and we were saying 30 days or longer, I'd say absolutely, we need housing.
So is it.
This doesn't provide housing, this provides. I think even in the application itself, it said there are only going to be, maybe people there a couple times a week. It's not resident. So we have seen with most Airbnbs, right? I think the job of the planning, we want full use of our town, right? And so the planning commission, we want to make sure we're zoning for things so they're not going to be sitting there empty. It's in the application, it's going to sit there empty most of the time. It said twice a week, or they're not having, it said there's going to be at most like people, it said it was twice a week, or can
I was being very conservative in
Yeah.
my estimate, because I know the town quiets down in the winter, but I think I could do a great job with it. And what an appealing location and an appealing structure. Can it be amended to be lodging? Lodging fits it better.
Well, that's what it is. I agree, it's a really appealing structure as it has been, but I'm not sure that adding, so just so, I think the average Airbnb in town is empty 60% of the time.
This would be the best.
Do I have maybe a motion from the board to continue this? Maybe get some more input from the town attorney? Do we want to continue the hearing?
I'd like I'll make a motion for continuance.
Okay, to what date? An idea? When would you like to?
I would like continuance until we have clarification on the definition of a dwelling unit. I've now got 30 days.
We need a date certain.
What's our next, what's our September regular? What's the date?
Gonna say if you can make sure that the motion not only continues to a date certain, but details exactly what extra information you want by that date. Please.
Okay. So
What is the
Date
date of our September?
Fifth.
The fifth.
how much time do you think the attorney would need to? Well, we haven't told you what we want to hear first, but.
Oh, fourth, sorry.
Well, I don't know how to word, maybe you can help me wordsmith this, but basically my continuance is until we have clarification on the definition of a dwelling unit and how it would affect an application for a short-term rental.
It's interesting, okay. Okay.
Can
It's,
we also add lodging?
yeah,
Because I think if you find out this isn't right, do you have another continuance to then figure out what lodging is? Could you do it all at once?
it is an interesting conundrum because why isn't a motel considered a dwelling unit, a room in a motel? You know, why, no, they have little kitchenettes in motels.
If they have a mice.
Well, unit has, if you read it, has a separate room.
It has to have a separate room,
That's what he read earlier.
yeah.
Hotels and motels are also partially state controlled through CDPHE.
That's
You
true.
should, although you should, if you don't, we do have to fill that gap. Local ordinance and local governments are required by the state now to inspect and to control local hotels and motels. So local code enforcement is required to be doing those inspections for fire and safety, et cetera, because they don't do it at the state level anymore and they haven't for years. So that would go into a lodging ordinance that if we don't have one, we should be seriously prioritizing.
We don't have that either.
We had a motion placed where we can't have more discussion.
Yeah,
Where are we
okay,
doing?
we have a motion in place, and
But-
did we complete the motion? Okay, so we had a date, did you have a date that you?
September
It's
fifth.
fourth, Wednesday, sorry, I can't read my calendar.
So motion for continuance September fourth until we get clarification on definition of dwelling.
And did we have a meeting scheduled for September 4th yet? Because Wednesdays could become a problem for me.
Oh, that's the normal
Mondays.
meeting time.
Yeah, but
okay.
that's historically, that's what I've been wanting to meet with you guys with, to discuss about
Changing.
other days that would be amenable to the planning commission. Monday is always a good one for me, just because of my work schedule.
Yeah.
So, sorry, now we're talking about meetings. Okay, Steph.
Well, we're talking about setting this,
We need to.
I think we should set this meeting for the Monday.
That's
Maybe
what I
we'll
was-
roll the rest of it.
Because we have a Monday meeting coming up.
I was gonna suggest, Monday, September 2nd, if that's easier.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Is that Memorial Day?
Oh,
I mean, Labor Day. Labor Day.
Maybe the
Oh, it is Labor Day.
Okay, yeah, that's not good.
Can you do this Tuesday?
Sure. Well,
Or September 9th.
September 9th, is
That's
that,
the following Monday.
is that all right? For you, for you?
Would like to know what
Yeah.
the applicant feels about
Yeah, is that too
date
far
for
out?
this.
Is that
What does this do to you?
hard for you?
Well, a couple things. Can I say three things? If we're gonna get clarification on dwelling unit, I really think you should simultaneously get clarification on lodging. Because I really would be happy to make a simple breakfast if that's what this took. And that would be perfectly fine, or bread and cheese plates. And then I think it seems like it would fit, but it would be great to get all that information at once. That one other point is I actually am finishing out my last year at CU. So I'm coming over here for these meetings, and so I might have to do one of them by Zoom, if that's okay. Because I'm just coming over. Took my first Mustang ride, you know.
I was just wondering if, I appreciate what you said about lodging, which we have no definition for in our code, but that could be helpful in this case, and we could talk about an emergency code change. Wouldn't happen by, an emergency, an ordinance that's done.
It would be, you can have an emergency.
No, I don't mean an emergency, but talk about adding a definition of lodging.
So any code change obviously has to go through the legislative body, which is the Board of Trustees. And then there is a 30-day period after that ordinance is passed for, after it's been published, for anybody to object. So, that, even if we were to have a meeting tomorrow, we're still 30 days from that time being, that notice period being finished. We do have the beginnings of a short-term rental and ADU ordinance that a lot of time was spent on and money for a grant. But there hasn't been an opportunity to put it on an agenda for discussion.
If
So
we could keep that to just short-term rentals, it would be so much easier to get somebody to pass. Go ahead.
I was just wondering if it'd be possible to work with our attorney to see if there are, if this would not be a quick turnaround approval, but see if there's any wisdom to making a definition for lodging, that we have to be careful though that it doesn't impose on short-term rentals. We don't want to create an endless do loop with things like that. And we would be doing it for you. Essentially, it would be initiated by your request, is how I'm feeling.
You just can't.
Yeah, and we really can't.
That's
No,
right.
right, but we don't have a definition for something that's in our zoning code. So it's kind of a problem. And so
There was a problem with the code when you said that and everybody clapped.
and we're well aware of it. I just don't know how far we are in zoning rewrite. On code rewrite.
Did we have a motion on the table right now?
I'm just trying to figure out what the date of the motion is.
There was not a second.
All right, so could you read the motion? Please.
Each motion is to continue until September 9th. Until clarification of definition of what dwelling unit is and how it affects definition of STRs.
Please, a little bit louder, Ruben.
Each motion is to continue until tentatively September 9th. With clarification of definition of dwelling unit and how it affects short-term rentals.
So I guess I have a motion to amend the motion.
was there a second for that motion?
No.
Oh, I'll second.
So a motion to amend the motion to include an exploration by the attorney of our code as it relates to dwelling units and lodging. A report from the attorney on our code as it relates to the pertinent topics that we're talking about here. So we get a report from this is expounding on the motion, report from the attorney on how our code deals with these things.
Okay,
And how he thinks that's proper or not.
Stefan.
So we've got two issues here. The first being that really the planning commission is not a legislative body. And so any changes or contemplation of changes of code should be Board of Trustees, well, adding definitions of changing code.
That kind of
And then the second point of order, the second is that the planning commission cannot direct the town attorney to, by a resolution set by the Board of Trustees. So, I mean, I think the most appropriate thing would be that a recommendation would be given to the Board of Trustees to explore this code.
Yes.
And make appropriate changes.
I actually, Bill, we had a question for the attorney, and perhaps we could amend the motion to ask him to investigate this and report to the Board of Trustees, and we'll pass this to the Board of Trustees to make the decision. Because I think this is kind of.
I think it's simpler than that.
Okay.
Mayor Smith has full access to ask the attorney exactly these questions and report back to the board. Doesn't have to go through the Board of Trustees.
Well, why do we need to consider it anymore? I mean, we're not even the decision-making body, we just make recommendations and
I don't, it's funny, I don't know, I'm sitting here with two hats on. So Clay, can my
Yeah,
position?
well, it really depends on the subject and whether or not you have general approval from the BOT. Typically the mayor is the chairperson of, and the liaison between staff and the Board of Trustees. And, staff has to respond to that. If the mayor independently was asking something, staff would have to make a determination of whether or not it was directed by the body, more or less. So I don't know if Commissioner Brenner's statement is exactly correct. My suggestion in this scenario is that you table the issue until such time as the Board of Trustees can address these issues, because you can't really you make a decision to give advice to the Board of Trustees that you can advise whether or not this can be approved because there's not sufficient code for your analysis. But I think what I don't want you to get down a rabbit hole on direction. I'm here. I can answer questions for the board because I've been asked to attend the meeting, and I assume when I'm asked to attend the meeting that's that there's some direction from the board. There's some important issue that might get to the board that might be appropriate at an advisory board meeting. So all that to say, I think you're making way too many contingencies and conditions on your continuance or tabling of the issue. If you don't think you have enough, then you need to table it and seek further and do more research and or request the BOT clarify these places in the code, namely being lodging, the difference between a lodging and a dwelling unit, and whether or not there's sufficient code to even grant this special review. You're trying to make a cake without any ingredients here, and that's why you're having such a hard time.
So I have a question. So is it possible that this should actually be a request for variance? If it were turned down by planning commission, would that be sufficient to trigger or to justify a variance application? The variance.
That would be up to the applicant. Yeah, the applicant has many avenues of approach here.
Because my thinking is that, and this is a question I would like to ask, is this a board of equity or law? Because the board of adjustment is a board of equity. And it sounds to me like this is a question of equity because we can't really answer it as a question of law. So I wonder I hate to send you don't go talk to them, but if we can't do it, maybe that's where it should go, to the Board of Adjustment.
But
anyone have any thoughts on it?
Well, I don't know, what is the Board of Adjustments going to do with it?
The Board of Adjustment is where you take a variance. And so the variance process is.
And variance to what? That's what I'm not clear on.
To anything in the zoning. That if you're turned down because something doesn't meet the zoning code, if you don't get your permit, you go to the Board of Adjustment and you make your case to the Board of Adjustment. And I think this might easily fit there because if the hardship is not created by the applicant and it's just one of those things that doesn't fit in the code, they have the power to say, no, it's okay. It's fair that you are able to do this, or maybe they say it's not, but they can make a decision based on whether or not they think it's fair. I mean, that's what the Board of Adjustment is about.
And they don't have to worry about code?
No, they have to look at the code, but if they see that the code isn't fair in this particular case, they can make a determination That's what they're empowered to
And that's
do.
a final decision too.
Yeah,
It's not,
right.
it can be appealed in
To the
district
court, but not,
court,
not the
but
board of
it
trustees.
doesn't have to go to the board of trustees after that, after the zoning board of adjustments.
It's the final
And
decision.
And if they said, no, you can always come back with a different request here.
So do we have to deny it in order for her to go to the board of?
I don't know, do we have to?
Or could we approve it with, on the condition that a dwelling unit is by definition 30 days or more rental?
I don't think that would serve,
I don't think that.
I think that would be tying her hands and it would
Well, I
probably.
mean, that's
would
what
be-
the recommendation is, to approve it as a dwelling unit as part of a business use, and dwelling unit is defined, so why can't we just include in our recommendation
Is
the
it
definition?
short-term
Hold on a
rental
second,
or
please, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Hold on. Why would it be inappropriate to include the definition in our code if we are recommending it as a dwelling unit, to then include in our recommendation, dwelling units are for 30 days or more? It's part of our code.
So we're essentially denying her, but we're not saying no. And then, so can you go to the zoning board of adjustment if you say yes, that you create a different situation?
We're not creating a different situation. It's the situation that our code allows for.
I know, but if you say no, she can go as a hardship and say your code doesn't allow for, and I'd like to apply for this. Stefan?
Clay may be able to weigh in on this too, but the zoning board of adjustments doesn't have blanket variance abilities, because what they decide is final. They're really meant to be like an appellate court for a decision made by like myself or a building official. And I mean, the powers and duties are pretty clear. It says, upon appeal, the board shall have the following powers: to hear and decide appeals where it is alleged by the appellant that there is an error in any order, requiring a decision or refusal by an administrative official or agency based on or made in the enforcement of Chapter 16 of this code. Chapter 16 is our zoning code. Number 2, to hear and decide appeals when there is a question on the interpretation of the zone district map, or similar questions as they may arise in the administration of Chapter 16 of this code. It's not a map question. And then 3, to hear and decide appeals for special exceptions to the provisions of this code, such exceptions to be known as variances. Typically, a special exception has a very prescriptive path for them to consider. Just a blanket variance is something. And Clay, maybe you'd be able to weigh in on this.
So I think.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything. I still think at this point, this board is, making this incredibly complicated. It's not your job your job is to look at what was presented and make a determination. You don't have to create an avenue for an applicant. In fact, you shouldn't be creating an avenue for an applicant and or attributing anything to the applicant. They may not want any of the things you're just speaking of. So you should just look at what's in front of you and make a determination based on that. And that's, and that's really the long and short of it. I don't think a discussion on BOA's authority is even, relevant at this point.
So we have a motion right now. Did we have a second on the motion?
I seconded it.
Okay, do we want to just vote on the motion and see if it passes, and then someone can make another motion if they'd like?
Can you reread the motion?
Read the motion.
Motion, are you sure about September 9th date?
That's the motion on the table.
Just read the motion.
So it
see if
is, passes. Commissioner McCarthy made a motion to continue until clarification of definition of dwelling unit, how it affects definition of short-term rentals for bringing back on the September 9th meeting. That motion was seconded by Commissioner Smith. And then
Bill made an amendment.
Commissioner Bruner made an amendment, which was a motion to amend to explore and report our code as it relates to dwelling units and lodging.
Did that get a second?
They did not get a second.
Okay, so we'll go to the original motion then, and I'm gonna do a roll call. Okay,
Chair Watson,
nay.
Vice Chair Howe,
Okay.
Commissioner Bruner,
Okay.
Commissioner McCarthy.
Aye. And Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Okay, would someone like to make another motion? Okay,
So,
can I make a motion? Oh, go ahead.
yeah, if I may, there are three potential motions.
Yeah, that's fine.
And you can either move to approve, move to recommend denial. So all of these are recommendations. Move to recommend approval, move to recommend denial, or move to make no recommendation to the Board of Trustees.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So what,
Okay.
so if we make no recommendation, the applicant starts over? It just stops there, or does this come to the Board of Trustees?
Everybody has to go to the Board of Trustees.
Oh, joy. Anyway.
Do I have a motion?
I move to make no recommendation to Board of Trustees for SRC 2024-03.
To clarify, there was a typo there. It's actually SRV 2024-04.
Oh,
Sorry.
Too many papers.
I know.
Trying to find it.
Okay,
Okay, does you have to, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Okay, roll call.
Is there any more discussion?
Any more discussion?
I don't know.
So sorry. Okay,
I think I'm discussed now.
okay, so that would mean there'd be a hearing coming up still on the what date?
I believe it's the 27th.
It's the 27th.
27th? And that would put it in the Board of Trustees' hands. Okay, so we'll do the roll call vote on that. We had a second, right? You seconded.
I seconded, didn't I?
Yes. Chair Watson,
Aye.
Vice Chair Howell,
Aye.
Commissioner Bruner,
Aye.
Commissioner McCarthy. Nay. Commissioner Smith.
Let me just think about it a second. I don't think it'll make any difference in the outcome. I'm gonna go aye. It's just kicking the
Well,
can.
I hope Leslie doesn't, she's identifying all these code
Oh,
problems here.
yes, exactly. We are having a code rewrite.
Okay, Samara?
Madam Chair, sorry, but I'm assuming that you go by the same rules with the rule of trustees and you need to either adjourn the meeting or you need to.
Oh, after that. Well, let me see, I've lost my script now.
I've lost my.
It's like gotten jumbled in here.
I don't have it.
But it definitely was starting to collect my fingers together. Okay, so, I will now, did we? We had.
It's all been closed.
Yeah, it's all been closed. So we pass this.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Public hearing has not.
We haven't, okay. So we voted without, was that correct? Because we were thinking about continuing.
Sure, we really need to.
So I need to close. Well, wait a minute, this is a whole, this is for the Board of
I make a
Trustees.
motion to extend the meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second.
5 minutes.
Amended 5 minutes.
It shouldn't take much.
Yeah, no, it's great, right.
And this is a family business, Madam Chair.
Can we have a vote, please?
Oh.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so, let's. Yeah, and, it's time to deliberate again.
Okay.
So we have a motion, no changes, we don't have to.
It's okay.
It's okay?
Yeah.
Great.
Let's look at that again.
So, I don't think we have anything else to go on. I've actually lost my script and I think that was it. So I have to adjourn the meeting.
I'm sorry, I thought we were adjourned.
I think, well, we have to sit here for 5 minutes now. No, we're kidding.
Oh, sorry.